What's cracking, home skillets? Take a chill pill and join us here on The Hill Is Always Greener, a show where four totally baller peeps have chill discussions about Sonic the Hedgehog to distract themselves from the epic and extreme passage of time and their own rapidly waning ability to keep their air in the boards and perform sick stunts. That's legit. I'm your ride or die 2K host, Y2K host Faulerro. Booyah!
What's up, guys? This is totally radical RockTheJake, and I'm totally not going to wipe out in a few seconds.
I'm CyberLink, and I have sunglasses now.
I'm GameBuddy, and Chaos Cola gives me wings.
And diabetes.
That's part of an ongoing class action lawsuit, and I cannot discuss it.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 2000s. We've gone back in time again. Not quite that far, though. We've gone back to the extreme time of extreme sports and doing wheelies.
But not that particular period of extreme sports. There were two separate periods.
Oh, that's right, isn't it? Oh, God, yeah, there was a different Sonic Extreme time, but this one actually happened, and boy, howdy, what did we get out of it? We got Sonic Riders! Remember that?
I do.
More than most people.
I mean, Luke does. Luke, sorry. Hey, Luke, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're talking about today? Because this is your, this is your specialist topic, I feel like, at least for this episode.
You can just say that I refuse to shut up about it. I won't feel offended.
I mean, it's fine. Yeah.
So yeah, Sonic Riders was like, I feel like Riders was a game that hit at the worst possible time for people to reflect positively on it. If you consider it hit right in between Shadow the Hedgehog on one side and Sonic 06 and Sonic Genesis for GBA on the other side.
Yeah.
It was right in the middle of the slop.
Luke, you can't say that about things that happened in 2005 to 2009. Everyone has established that is the GOAT era of Sonic, and I do agree if GOAT is an acronym for generally horrible, also terrible, but, you know, they're doing a lot.
Horrible?
Here's the thing. Those people don't have a podcast. Their opinion doesn't count.
Ooh. Oh, and if you disagree with us, make one yourself. It's not worth it, but do it anyway.
It's not worth it.
Boy, I know it's hot outside just in the entire world, but I feel like the heat's already getting turned up on this episode.
Like, here's the thing. I say that because I think that Sonic Riders gets unfairly maligned and lumped in with those games when I think it's actually surprisingly good for what it is and holds up decently well. Like, and I granted, I also am somebody who, you know, has gone back to play that game once every few years, but I think the mechanics are actually surprisingly nuanced, even if they do a shit job of teaching you how to actually use them.
Yep.
And the skill ceiling or the skill floor is so high that it's just a complete turnoff to most players. But when it hits, it really hits.
I mean, you got to have that skill floor pretty high up. I mean, you're on like boards that go through the sky and stuff. So
Exactly.
True that.
Though it is interesting because this is one I didn't play back then because this was during my I'm sick of Sonic era. So it's one that kind of passed me by, and I'm playing it now. And I mean, I'm not going to get too far into my thoughts, but it really is hard to get into. But you can see the ambition like bubbling all over the place in this one. It's a very curious sample of a Sonic game.
I agree. I want to absolutely get into it in more detail, but I do want to say at the start, every time this one has come up, I've been really hesitant because I remember liking this game a lot. I've already told the story of I had a memory card issue as a kid and my data got deleted right after I unlocked everything. And so then I just did it all again right away. And so I don't think it's haughty of me to say, like, no, I played this game and got really good at it. And I was really scared to return to it. But by the end of it, by the end of my time, I think I enjoyed it quite a bit and would like to talk about why I think that happened.
And I have thoughts on the game.
They're probably similar to my initial thoughts, and I understand, Jake. I really, really understand.
I will definitely understand as well, because we've been chatting over the course of we've had a couple of weeks to play this game to pull our scheduling back a little bit, and those first few times I was like, okay, got the game loaded up. Wow, this still looks pretty good, playing it how I am, and then just be like, oh boy, the alarms are going off, bad time alert.
Prepare to repel intruders. This is definitely one of those games that people either seem to really love or really hate, with very little middle ground in between. And, I get it. I really do, even as somebody who does really love this game a lot. But I think one of the things that people will agree on is that it is peak aesthetic.
Yes. The man, I absolutely remember being on Sonic forums, and even if you didn't play the game or hated the game or couldn't care less, everybody was clamoring over that new art style for the 2D artwork, and the opening cutscene to the game. It is still very cool. And I don't even know what you call it. I think I am a sucker for when you take characters that have established costumes and no, man, just throw some new goggles and shoes on there. I don't know. What do you call that? I guess Kingdom Hearts was the first one to start doing that. Oh, no, throw all these, big shoes and more chains and loops and swords on these Final Fantasy and Disney characters. It's great.
Some 2000s Ash. This is a Y2K core game, all the way through, visually, and just the very idea of it feels that way too. It's very much of the time where you just take the characters and okay, how do we adapt them to this new millennium? Sunglasses and skateboards again? It's strange.
I promise it is not just because it's her. I think Rouge's flared yoga pants and sports bra is no, they got it. That was the assignment. That is
absolutely
peak. It's a great costume, and it is a little bit of finger on the pulse, wow, radical 2000s, but in a actually part of the fashion at the time.
But it doesn't feel like they just took Rouge the Bat and applied some random fashion on her to be this is the Yogi version of Rouge the Bat. No, that fits her so well. And granted, it's just Rouge the Bat looks great in just about anything, true, but, it really works.
I mean, even looking at, Cream's adorable little sun visor, that is so cute. Yeah, it almost looks like she's wearing
the little star dress and everything. It's just, it all comes together.
She looks like she's about to go to basketball practice.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say it looks like adorable little kids sports uniforms, and yes, I get it. The aesthetic of this game is very cool.
I'm personally a big fan of Eggman's aviator outfit. I think it's great cool.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it does kind of. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the costume they would go for his Boom redesign, which I've said in the past is really good on an Eggman.
It kind of also reminds me of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog Robotnik, where he's going to drill that town, if you remember in the Breezy episode of the show. And it's just a Red Baron style uniform in that case, but it looks real good on Eggman.
I'm Sonic. I like to skateboard.
I was gonna say I'm looking right now at some of the game's concept art, and it's actually the final designs we got are actually restrained compared to some of the originals that they were.
Oh man,
yeah, full body suits. Now
I don't think they would put that much clothes on Sonic, at least during this time period. Yeah.
But it does. What was I going to say? I think it kind of earns some of the big chunky accessories because of Sonic Adventure 2 had so many, Rouge and Knuckles end up with big eyewear and accessories. And so I think when this came out, I remember thinking Sonic's, I guess they're supposed to be snowboarding boots, but not really, but they do kind of just look like redesigned soap shoes. So I like that I don't know how much thought went into it, but I guess some of these characters do appear outside of these games, like the Babylon Rogues, and they still look with their accessories like they fit in with the Sonic characters in their regular outfits, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it almost kind of, now you put it like that, wouldn't it have been interesting if they gave them, like, non-extreme gear clothes? I suppose they're always doing that shit. Whenever we see them, they're on their extreme gear. But it was almost like, what if we had what if they were normal the rest of the time?
It's like Jet just comes out in his Adidas slides. What? Those boots are heavy.
Asking what if they were normal the rest of the time is how some people judge this podcast.
Oh, wow.
Never gonna happen.
This podcast wouldn't happen otherwise,
Yeah. If we just did an episode talking about normal things, that would be depressing this time of year.
Yeah, like I just love the aesthetic for this game so much. And like you said, that Production IG intro still lives rent free in my head nonstop.
It's done to the music as well, which I always love, because there's that bit where the waves come out and they sing "Riding on the waves like a supersonic." Yeah, he is.
The rainbow shine. I can't tell. Is it magic water that's shining, or is it like tainted oil that's shining in the sunshine? I guess it doesn't.
It's
matter.
techno water.
Technical. Oh yeah, it's it's the Mega Mac. It's just faded pink. Anyway,
it's all nanomachines.
That intro is amazing, and I don't know if it's just a combo of I'm like always, I'm playing this game on my Wii U, which is modded to play GameCube games from the source. And not only am I playing it in progressive mode, I'm pretty sure that's what it's asking me. I'm playing a Japanese copy. Plus, upscaled with the Wii U's internals. And man, it looks really good. Like, it still looks like a game from 2006, but it still looks really good. So I absolutely, people aren't lying when they say it is a fairly nice looking game overall.
It's surprising. Like, I'll pull the curtain back. I kind of emulated mine because my GameCube might be a bit too old, and this game is hard to come by, but it still looks really great even in that form. It's a really nice little shiny looking game.
Speaking of the different consoles, in a way, that this game came out on, is this another case of the GameCube one ran the best and probably performed worse on the PS2?
Yeah, it's generally accepted that the GameCube version is the best one from my understanding. I know there was also a PC version later, but I think that one has a couple of issues, particularly with like some of the characters' facial animations not being rigged correctly. So I think that generally speaking, if you're going to play a version of it, GameCube is probably the way to go.
I don't want to get all conspiracy theorist, but I do wonder how much those other platforms, at least the PS2, like, hey, PS2's great, but it was an objective fact. It was technically a little weaker than the other consoles. So those, we talked about that during Sonic Heroes. That's like a pretty janky port. I wonder if this game could have looked even better if it was just on GameCube at the time.
Probably.
The cutscenes probably would look better.
Yeah, I guess that really is just semantics. And I mean, we'll talk about the cutscenes. The cutscenes are about the only thing I find really disappointing, just because they're a little silly. But then at the same time, I'm like, well, this racing game also has like a full fucking story mode that they absolutely did not need to put in here. So
Right.
That's just a Sega thing as well, isn't it? To be like, oh, this new Sonic game, shove a story mode in, even though you typically don't have that. It's like Sonic. Do you remember Sonic Shuffle was like a flipping Mario Party game? And like, no, that needs a full story too.
Yeah,
a full narrative
about dreams and despair and. Oh man, and this one's about
throw some dice, man.
Birds and Babylonians.
Bible joke.
I know, right?
That's my role here now.
Yeah, unfortunately, you spent that one before on our previous time we talked about the Babylon Roads.
I know, the Babylon Roads.
Birds built a tower to God, and God said no, and all the birds started squawking different ways.
Yeah, but I feel like when it comes to Riders, the main thing you do need to talk about is the gameplay, because that is what makes or breaks this game for basically everybody. And not going to lie, like, again, even as somebody who really likes this game, it's real weird.
Yeah.
I struggle to even find an equivalent to compare it to. Let me see. What was that game on the Dreamcast where you rode on hoverboards? And even then, that was not Trick Style.
Yes.
I remember renting that like 400 times, and I think I found a hard copy of it at the flea market. That is a hoverboard trick-based racing game that still doesn't feel exactly like this, but it's the first thing that comes to mind. It was very different. And again, this is just my perspective. Maybe something existed out there that felt just like this, but... It auto acceleration, so already completely different from your Mario Karts, your traditional arcade racers. And then, yeah, a lot of it is based on keeping your fuel up, which is just air, and doing cool tricks, and you must take shortcuts or you will not win these races, I guarantee it.
It is surprisingly heavy on resource management between, making sure to maintain your air and also trying to get rings to increase your air capacity all at the same time. It does definitely, keep you on your toes for literally the entire race. There is no point where you can just coast. You got to be constantly trying to maintain while also, going for those shortcuts or looking for, specific, character specific shortcuts, which, yeah, going back to that, Sonic Heroes Speed Fly Power back again, except this time it is like a vitally important part of any racetrack that you know what your character can do, because every track has character specific shortcuts that you can use to either, not just get ahead, but also refill your air by doing them. So it is essential that you are which character you go in is more important than basically every other racing game I can think of.
You gotta memorize these courses and work out where all these things are, because you're not winning a race unless you get to, say, the rails for the speed characters, or the little rings that you fly through for the flight characters, or the walls you crash through as a power character.
Yes. I think the shortcuts are also, because on a lot of courses they are necessary. You really need to try and hit some of these, but also they are not a guarantee. Sometimes I think, depending on if you can get your boost timing right, it's probably better to skip a lot of the speed character shortcuts, the grinding rails, because I know they preserve your speed, but some of them just go around pieces of the track that might be easier to get shortcuts off of.
Right, but they also do restore your air while you're taking them, so it is kind of like a risk-reward thing.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is there does seem to be a good balance of risk reward, depending on the characters too, because as a power character, you can smash through things and you get a teeny bit of air back for everything you smash, but it's nothing compared to the air you get back as a flying character or a speed character. And I think for the most part, most of the tracks do a pretty good job balancing that out.
I do think the flight characters generally have more effective shortcuts, but by and large, no matter who you're playing as, you can probably still do just fine on any of the tracks, regardless of which character.
I was going to say, the flight shortcuts cut out so much of the track, it feels like. When I was having no chance with one of the last stages with Wave, until I realized, if I go through these rings, I can get to first place immediately. Oh, great, cool. I should have known that right away.
This is only anecdotal, but I did try, and I thought, maybe before we record, I can finish the 2 Grand Prix races and unlock the Sega courses. And I thought, it would be funny. I'm pretty confident in my skills. It'll be funny. I'll do it as Cream. No, she sucks. She's very slow, and the shortcuts don't help. So
bless you, Cream. You're doing your best. You look adorable. We love you in your little outfit. I'm sorry, you're terrible at this.
Could have been a skill issue on my part, but I was like, all right, I got to switch to one of these damn hedgehogs because they're always the fastest. And it worked. I did at least one of them with Shadow and his little skatey boots.
See, the trick is
actual air shoes.
The trick is that there is some extreme gear that will give you another class's ability. So the trick is you want to find a combination, mixing and matching two different, like a character with one ability and a board with another, that will let you take two different types of shortcuts at once.
Okay.
That sounds like something I read on GameFAQs in February or March of 2006, so I believe it.
Yeah. Like there are a couple of gears that let you use all three character shortcuts, but they come with significant drawbacks. So it's not necessarily the way you want to go, and you might want to just find the two that work best for your play style or for that course and roll with it. But on the plus side, like, I feel like the turbulence system really does do a good job of like keeping things moving, even if you are pretty far behind.
There is so much slipstream that you get into. Like, even if you're falling behind, like, other characters will leave some behind you. Like, yoink, take that, do some tricks on here, get my air back. It's a really cool idea. It's fascinating that you spend so much time. And then I realized this today. I was like, this game really is about embracing the wind.
Yes. There is a particular line near the end of the hero story that...
Can you catch the wind?
Yeah, the translation they have works, but the alternate translation I'm looking at is like, oh man, wind heads would have gone crazy over this. Yeah, before Black Knight, this game is literally Jet saying like, oh, Sonic the Hedgehog, you'll never be the wind. And he goes, I'll show you.
Sure did.
My mom said I'm the windiest wind that could ever win.
Man, I do want to talk about the voice cast in general, which we'll try and be nice. I just got to say, this is just a me, because I realized what an influence his voice had on my early yelling into a microphone for fun. It is so, like, I might have gotten a little choked up hearing Otsuka-san as Eggman again, just because I think this was his peak, like, gone through all of Sonic X. He has that Eggman laugh down pat, and just a fantastic performance. May he rest in peace.
Oh, I'm glad you got to say something nice about the voice acting, because this is during that era. Okay, we'll get to the cutscenes later. Let's talk about the gameplay. Come on. Back on track.
We'll get there. But I was going to say, did you guys find that you preferred a specific like gear type between the boards, the skates, and the bikes?
I wish I could have tried them out more. I did. Luke kindly provided us with a save file that we could use on our emulated versions, so that I was able to try out a few of them. But it's hard to say. I think the bikes are pretty cool. Surprisingly so. You think it'd be all about the boards. I like the Shadow's just got his shoes, and he can just go around on the shoes because he's just that cool. Yeah. He doesn't need those fancy boards. He's the ultimate.
I
got to try. I mostly played with the Extreme Gear boards. I got to play with the skates a little bit. I didn't have time or didn't make time to play with the bikes. I thought the skates were pretty cool in concept, and is okay. Well, since we're talking about the gear now and the boards, is it okay if I leverage one of my biggest complaints about like the Extreme Gear boards and the story, because they're in conjunction?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so.
It's okay, Jake. You're among friends.
I knew they shouldn't have put in that dragon board.
That damn dragon. No.
I'm not going to Coolsville sucks you in the edit, I promise.
So my biggest issue with the story mode in the game, believe it or not, is not actually the story. It's the gameplay of whether you're playing as Jet or Sonic in either campaign. You're playing with, obviously the most base beginner early model of either one's Extreme Gear, and then as you play the game and earn rings and go to the black market on there and stuff like that, you can get better gear, get better boards, etc., etc. And I think maybe I got spoiled by it because there was one day where where most of us hopped online and we used Parsec to be able to play Sonic Riders together, and
I still can't believe that worked as well as it did.
I love that it worked as well as it did. And we got to try out these different gears and different boards and stuff like that, and the ones that I'll just say, like, the ones that you unlock later have much better handling, and that's what it comes down to for me. It's just like if the beginner boards that you use as Sonic and Jet just handled better. And I understand you have like the drifting mechanic where you can like slow down and like drift around corners and then get a little speed
that's
boost to do
character
that.
by character though. It depends on their handling, so you're right.
Yeah, it just like the boards just in the beginning, like throughout the story mode, you get the base ones, and they, in my opinion, they just handle so bad. Like it takes forever. If you're trying to like make just a simple turn, it feels like it takes forever to like actually do the turn. And like I did see a cool trick online where somebody, as long as you have plenty of air, which is a whole other thing, if you just keep tapping on that, like you can really cut corners really easily without using too much air, depending on when you time it out right. But like especially the final race of the hero side story, I probably replayed that 10-15 times, like at separate occasions, and I could not get it. And I was just like, there was one day not too long ago where in our chat, I was just like, who has 2 thumbs and is sick of replaying this stupid level? This guy. and so like, honestly, I just wish, like, they don't have to be the best boards, but I just wish that the beginner boards that you play with in the story mode just controlled better. And that's my biggest gripe about it. Cause like there's been other racing games I've played where like, it doesn't handle as well as I think it should. And maybe this is just me being too subjective now, but like, I don't know, the gameplay and the game feel just does not feel good there. I really enjoyed my time playing this game when I was playing with y'all, but when I was playing by myself, it was a struggle.
Yeah,
I think that goes back to maybe it's a good time to talk about that, Luke. The game, despite having a built-in tutorial that you have to go find, does not do a good job teaching you how to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if all the things we talked about so far in the gameplay are things people didn't know about because the game doesn't tell you.
Yeah, like it's bad enough that the tutorial isn't very good. It's worse that it doesn't even play in the attract mode or before starting the story or anything like that. You have to like go digging in the menus to find it. And it's like, what are you even thinking?
And it's a very compressed, hard to watch video.
Literally filmed on a potato.
It's like the one video portion that does not look very good, unfortunately.
But I do feel like that's very 2000s as well, having this really compressed ass Windows Movie Maker sort of like old YouTube video that you're just like, oh, I'm going to get all my info from this crunkly little thing.
Yeah, load this up in my QuickTime player.
That was just in case we're not showing our balls because on this subject, I did mean to look up the manual to see if any of this was in there as well. I guess we could probably pull that up while we're discussing it.
It is and to be fair, didn't have the manual here for obvious reasons. But if it's
games
there,
did used to come with manuals.
But
Wild that.
But otherwise, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't blame anyone for being like, why doesn't the game tell me what to do? I don't know what to do, because you need to know what you need to do, because I'll be honest, I did not vibe with this at first. Like, visually, I was like, oh, this rules, this looks great, this is a load of fun. And then I tried playing it, it's like, well, 8th place all the time, what's going on? You really need to get used to it. I found the game a lot of the time until I started getting used to it, and even then, I found it exhausting. So I had to like play it in sessions, because especially when I'm doing the story mode, because oh man, it drops you right in there. So, and I can't criticize too much, because obviously I'm a person who's always championing like the old Sonic games, despite them not necessarily being the most intuitive and things that people really need to get good at. And I say you need to. This is one of those most get-gooding at-ust games that I've seen the Sonic series so far. But I just don't think it's particularly intuitive, and it needs, like... They should, like, ease you in a little bit. But I guess the point is it's extreme sports, so you've got to be like Sonic and grab your board or that someone dropped and pick it up and learn, because that's being the wind, I suppose. I don't know.
Unless you run out of air, in which case you have to run, and it's one of the few times where you don't want to run in a Sonic game.
Right, yeah.
I feel like a good compromise. We're not going to be talking about the other 2 games in the series just because we didn't have time and they probably deserve their own episodes. So I don't know if this changed. I feel like a small tutorial section that just taught you all of the basic things and let you control them. Almost like, I mean, that's why I really like the mission mode, because the mission mode is great practice, but you have to get through the stories to unlock it. Something like that at the very, like Sonic Heroes has you do the baby Goofy tutorial if you do Team Rose, or you can do it on your own. Something like that, I think, would have really helped people. And I don't really care if people think, oh, this is so basic. Oh, it's holding my hand. Like a game like this, who we've already said in a positive way has a pretty, like depth of skill related to it. I just think it could have used something like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking at the manual. Yeah, like it's page 17. They finally start telling you how to play it.
Oh.
It's definitely better than the tutorial they provide, though. I'll say
it is. It actually tells you how to do it.
And I'm looking at the manual, and I don't see anything that would have helped. Yeah, I see. I mean, it teaches you how to go off a jump. You hold the A button and you release it right. But there's nothing. There is an allusion to doing the shortcuts as a backflip or a front flip, but just barely mentioning it. Not really saying like, oh, the only way to get these shortcuts is to identify what type of ramp it is so you know which direction to hold your trick in.
It is kind of one of those things where you gotta, there's a little bit of trial and error, which, is admittedly in the spirit of, a lot of the older Sonic games from that period as well. Yeah. But I don't know. Like, I think that it's good that this stuff is in the manual, but it really should have also been in the game itself, because, there's no guarantee that you actually are going to have access to the manual. And it's not one of those things that is, easily conveyed without being able to do it yourself or really spend the time to learn. Like, I think having a little bit of a guiding hand is important for something like this, where there is a lot of nuance and a lot of like detail to figuring out the controls.
Yeah, I agree.
I just thought to myself, like, what's worse, doing this or doing the completely hold your hand Sonic and the Secret Rings, explain every single gameplay detail and force you to do that in the prologue of the game while playing that theme song over and over again.
Oh boy. There's definitely a middle ground where you can teach the basic.
Yeah, a middle ground between
things.
Everything and nothing. Shocker.
Yes.
Can't have that in Sonic, I tell you.
No.
Pretty good Bond game.
So since I had my grumpy tirade earlier, I do want to actually talk about part of the gameplay that I really do enjoy, and that is if it's okay for us to move on just a tiny little bit. I want to talk about the trick system. I really like the trick system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially
I like
after
trick systems in games in general. They're always fun.
Yes. And we just talked about how badly implemented the official tutorial is in the game, but we all watched like a 24 minute like actual tutorial video from a guy on YouTube who is fantastic, and I think we should drop him in the description because it's super helpful.
Yeah, the video tutorial made by PSP Man is like essential watching for anybody who wants to get into riders. I think it does a great job of like running you through all the mechanics and making it understandable.
Yes.
Oh, I should have watched that then. Oh, it might have made my life a bit easier.
I mean, I can say I knew about 90% of what he explains, but he does like explain the trick system and ramps in a way that made it click for me. So I do think it is worth watching, even if you think, oh, I know most of this. And I mean, it's just a very well edited, put together video as well.
Yeah, but it was cool to learn about like, instead of just tapping jump at the ramps to like hold the jump for like more air, because that's what you really need, so you can pull off more tricks. And like when you hit it just right and you're able to pull off like 3, 4, maybe even 5 tricks like at a time.
Yeah. Get that X rank.
Yeah, and it's so cool. I really appreciate that it's not just like up, down, left, right for doing the tricks. It's also got the diagonals, so like you've got like all these different tricks to come up with, and like the animations on them are great.
But it is also a risk reward thing, because, a lot like the tricks in the All-Stars racing games, you got to make sure that you actually finish the animations before you hit the ground, or else it's going to, cause you to spin out and lose some speed. So you do have to be careful. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I got C rank quite a few times. I'm like, well, but when you get that X rank, you're like, I am a god. Yeah. I did it by accident, but I feel amazing.
I am the extreme gear.
I think the game even has like a pretty forgiving, like built-in, like the trick system is deeper than you think. I think sometimes the most consistent X ranks I got is, you get that perfect jump, and if you roll the control stick like in an arc and make sure to hit those directional inputs, and usually end on the opposite side that the control stick started, you'll usually be hitting a trick that has like a natural flip to a landing. Because I have landed like with my character like horizontal facing me, the player, and still got the X rank because they were technically on the ground. So like the game has that built in. Like it's not just, you were still moving the control stick. It is a little forgiving. Like they want you to experiment with getting those big points.
I'm glad one aspect of the gameplay like cuts you some slack, because not a lot else does, to be real with you.
Yeah.
Kind of, because one of the things I'll say about this game is, while this is not your typical kart racer, it doesn't follow those rules and it does its own thing. It is interesting that you do want to spend as much time as you can on the actual course itself. For a game which involves you like on hoverboards, if you still don't want to go off the track and fly off, because then you will fall and crash. So it kind of feels at odds with the actual aesthetic of it, especially if you look at the opening scene. But I get it. You can't actually do that. You can't actually have the characters like floating off into space. It wouldn't actually work in the confines of a racing game. At least not during this era, maybe later.
Yeah, I think they tried that in some of the sequels, and I mean, me and Luke were talking before we started, and I think it definitely became showier, but I don't know if actually doing that crazy like cool hoverboard moves actually like made the gameplay more fun and or cooler.
That's really is the balance of, well, we've got a cool idea here, and we're making you feel like you're doing the idea, but you actually can't do it all the way because it needs to be a game. That's the real difficult part.
Which I think is why, I mean, I'm personally excited to see how they play, but I mean, Extreme Gears have come back in Sonic Crossworlds, and I'm really interested to see how they manage to have that balance in that game, which seems very tuned for vehicle, cars and not other things. But I hope they pull it off.
My understanding is that the Extreme Gear implementation in Crossworlds is a very simplified version of the mechanics from Riders, where you basically are doing tricks to fill a boost meter so that you can constantly boost. But also tricks in that game, no matter what vehicle you're in, there's no penalty for, being mid-trick when you hit the ground. So you can just spin that stick as much as you want. So cool. That's probably going to be a much better way for a lot of people who couldn't get into Riders to kind of get, a reasonable facsimile of that experience without nearly the same level of difficulty.
Yeah, and my experience playing the beta for Crossworlds, like the constantly doing tricks was not as silly as you would think. I mean, it's also in the new Mario Kart, and it works well there too. So I'm glad. I will be happy to try Extreme Gear in that new game.
Well, that's coming out later this month as release of the release of this podcast. So
oh Lord, yeah, you're right.
It's good.
Yeah.
Well, the boosting mechanic, another gameplay thing we already alluded to is like the main gimmick for these boards is that they run on fuel, but it's just air. Like there's a joke about Tails tries to explain how it works, and it just works. Okay, they're super fast and they run on air. It's a futurist's dream, but during the race you have to keep air in your board, or like you said, you just straight up can't use it. So there is always that you can't boost all the time. You got to save them for, you got to have some strategery.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where you got to be constantly doing tricks off of ramps and turbulence and everything. And, they do also have pit stations where you can refill your air, but it does require you to stay in one place, giving your opponents the opportunity to like overtake you pretty easily. So and
you don't want that because you're fucked at that point.
Yeah.
I did make some pretty clutch comebacks, but that is not the norm. Sometimes you fall behind and cannot catch up, or vice versa. You'll be like, wow, I'm 10 seconds ahead of it. Wait, that guy just passed me. Where did they come from?
There is no difficulty slider in that game. It is all or nothing.
Hacksaws.
It's a difficulty puddle. It's just all over the place.
Maybe it's like it's kind of like really dropping you into the world, because literally, like, at least for the hero cast, they're being dropped into this new sport that they've just learned about today, and they have to become experts at it immediately. And I guess it is kind of like, well, this is what would happen. Good luck.
They just happen to already be wearing all this cool new skater gear, so.
Okay.
So they steal one of they steal Storm's extreme gear, and I guess Tails just copies it wholesale.
Like, you're just learning how to play Street Fighter. Now we need you to compete at EVO and take first.
I'll press all the buttons really fast.
Now I realize why I like this game.
I mean, it is, I guess we're getting closer to the story. I think it is overall a totally fine, serviceable story that, depending on how you experience it, is a pretty funny look into like the mind of Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, instead of, I guess because nobody's in any real immediate danger, he's so like, oh no, I gotta race this guy and beat him, but at his own game, because that looks fun. That looks more funner, and I'm Sonic.
Yeah. And to go back to one of Jake's points from earlier, I like how much variety there is in the extreme gear, even if it does take way too long to unlock everything. It's like, you start out, everybody's got a default gear, you've got a couple extras, but then there's 4 you can only unlock through story, 4 you can only unlock through missions, and then the rest you all got to buy through the shop, which is basically the Chow Black Market, which will cost you let me do some quick addition here, over 51,000 rings.
Oh boy.
And you can only get 100 max per race.
Ooh, I hate that.
Gosh.
Like, I understand, like, that happens in Mario Kart. Like, oh, you can only get 10 or 20 coins to increase your max speed. There should be an invisible counter in the background that is still counting the rings I pick up, so it does not take 20 to 50 hours to unlock everything, which is going to take that long regardless, because that's how you unlock the E1000 characters, right? You have to play the game for that long or leave it on. I don't know what counts. My understanding is that you only have to leave the game on for 50 hours, so that's not as bad, but still. Which actually does make for a good opportunity to talk about the characters in this game. I think it is a good cross-section of characters for the era in which it came out. Like, you've got, your 4 main heroes, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy. You got the Babylon Rogues, which are the newcomers. You got Eggman and his 2 generic henchbots for filling out story races. You got Shadow, Rouge, and Cream, who are not in the story at all, but they're just happy to be here.
And
You can shadow somehow.
yeah. And you've got a couple of special guest characters in the form of Ulala, Knights, and I, which, again, given both the time at which it came out and, Sonic Team's personal favorites, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of curious to have that during that time period, because I know there were other Sega games out at the time, but I don't know, it would feel like... Were they doing many crossover things? I suppose Sonic Pinball Party is like the closest thing I can think of around the time, though they were actually crossing over Sega properties like this.
Yeah, like they always love putting in Knights, so that makes sense. Super Monkey Ball was still very popular during that era, and Ulala was probably just, the deep cut for the old Dreamcast fans. I do know that in Zero Gravity, Ulala and I get swapped out for Amigo and Billy Hatcher, so...
Oh, I think I do remember that, yeah.
Also, I'm a fool. I forgot about the Sega Superstars for the PlayStation iToy.
Yeah, that would have
Oh my
been out a little bit before this.
Yeah, 2004, so okay.
But yeah, like I think that the character variety is really interesting, especially when you consider that they do all have different stats, and they also, like, you can't use every gear with every character. There are like some that, can't necessarily use boards or can't necessarily use skates or whatever. So it is actually more like, it does actually require more thought in terms of who you end up maining, where you do want to like find a character that fits your play style or is actually going to be effective for whatever you're trying to do. So I think that that's interesting, but also maybe a little bit limiting compared to other racing games where you just, pick whoever you want and don't have much to worry about outside of, lightweight, midweight, heavyweight.
You just pick Eggman with his cool fit and his two voices, which I only learned about that today when I selected him.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
Eggman. Why is Dean Bristow's voice coming out? And yeah, for some reason they've mixed clips of like old archival recordings of the now at the time already past Dean Bristow and Mike Pollock. It's really odd. I don't think they do that for any of the other characters.
Nope.
Guess they just didn't have they couldn't get Mike in for another recording session to do some Foley, I guess. I don't know.
I'd believe that if that didn't also carry over into Zero Gravity.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just really like Dean Bristow's lines.
Well, and as Luke just discovered, they do that to Blaze and Free Riders by having clips from Laura Bailey and Erica Schroeder. And man, I'm really biting my tongue because I hate it when people say this, but that just seems like lazy and inconsiderate. Like, okay, I understand if it happened once. Like in this game, the voice cast switch was still fairly new. Like Dean Bristow had passed away several years before this came out. But even when this first came out,
only 1 year, I think.
Yeah, geez. I even when this came out, I remember I was online. I was fully in my Sonic corner of the internet. People thought it was weird, myself included. Like people didn't think like, oh, is this some kind of like tribute? Like, because it's just when you play as Eggman, it's not any of the cutscenes, but it's reused clips mostly from Sonic Adventure 2, like the Chow Garden and whatnot. So it is a lot of weird, it's Dean Bristow going, yosh, yo, oh no. It's weird, man. And I don't like it. It just always came across as creepy in my opinion.
It's a bit different from when they have like an actor fill in for a past actor, because oh boy, that's actually happened in the new King of the Hill show apparently, because that happened during production, and it's like, well, that's really sad, and they had no choice.
It's one thing when that happens during production and they have to Jetsons movie it and fill in a couple of lines, but that still happens in Sonic games as far as like multiple people play Omega now, and I don't know, sometimes, it happens in Sonic Adventure 2 where they couldn't get Shadow's actor back in, and that's why you get those Ryan Drummond Shadow lines, but this just seems very egregious to me.
I'm just thinking of like Expiration Date, the Team Fortress 2 short where they had to bring in Nola North to play in some Rick May lines.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's like, like these things happen, but when it's like flipping, it feels like an oversight, or they just got lazy. I don't want to say they got lazy, but
I know, I hate
odd.
that, but
And the thing is, it's not like the sorry, let me compose myself a second. It's not like Mike Pollock's performance as Dean Bristow is particularly close in this case. Like, at this point, Mike Pollock had his own voice for Eggman, and he wasn't just doing an impression.
And he
like
voices through the entire story campaign.
Yeah. So it's odd.
So I just don't see how that happened, why it happened. I don't know. I would love to. I would like someone who probably does not work at Sega anymore to like, hey, just spill the beans, leak that somewhere. How did that happen?
Leak the Eggman files.
Oh Jesus. Okay. I was gonna say, is it time to talk about like the story and the cutscenes and voices?
Before we, let's do that, and we'll bring up the tracks as they come up in the story.
Yeah, I feel like the tracks and all that, and then our final, like, we want to talk about the good things. I mean, like I said, the story is there, but I think it's best to like get it out of the way right here.
Yeah.
So this game does do the Sonic Adventure 2 thing of hero story, dark story. Well, Babylon story technically, but instead of a last story, they just tack on the epilogue to the end of Babylon story.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think it's, like I said, I'm surprised the story mode is, I mean, here at all. I think it's fine, like on the whole. And I actually like that there is a little bit of properly done, like, what do you call it? Like Rashomon with the stories. Like, you play the hero one, and like you said, oh, it's Sonic and his friends, and we get to see their perspective of this. And then the Babylon story is Jet and the Rogues, and we get to see everything from their perspective, and they intersect. And yeah, it ends up being the final battle is just after that one. I mean, it's not that complicated. Jet and Wave and Storm are the Babylon Rogues. They are running around. Let's see, do they steal a Chaos Emerald, or do they steal the
they steal an emerald?
Okay, they do steal an emerald. Because Jet has a crucible he inherited from his dad, who was the former leader of the Babylon Rogues,
It's the Tesseract sort of.
I believe it's called like the key to Babylon Garden or something like that.
Yeah, the key, the ancient key. But they are literally like sky pirates or some type of pirates who ended up in the sky.
Their big airship is very Skies of Arcadia.
No surprise there, yeah.
I can't recall if I heard the word Kaizoku as I was watching this, but probably. I mean, there is a portrait of Jet's dad where he looks just like Jet, but wearing like a pirate costume.
Yeah.
So there is some history there. He has this heirloom. They are like a bunch of, like I said, pirates, bounty hunters, etc. And yeah, Sonic and friends catch them stealing an emerald in the middle of this cool futuristic city. And Sonic is like, uh-oh, those might be bad guys. Oh, yeah, this is happening. And then I like how he does run up and just stops right in front of them. Like, he does a cool spin jump, and then puts his hands out like, okay, stop. And they don't. And Jet's like, I have a cool hoverboard, lame-o. And who was it? Oh, Knuckles jumps in and punches Storm right in the tummy, and Sonic steals his board. But, he just hopped on this thing and can't control it, so Jet kind of kicks his ass and, says something real snarky like, I can't believe people said you're supposed to be fast.
Dweeb.
I'm faster.
Well, what's interesting here is, he says, and you're supposed to be the fastest thing alive. I'm like, oh, like in the show that I watched when I was younger,
He does say that. Okay, all right. I did not replay this game in English. I remember there is not dual audio on any GameCube version, unfortunately. And so
I believe the Xbox and PC versions have dual audio.
And so that meant when I was a kid, you had to play in English. And if you didn't know, they did that with Shadow. They just had Jason Griffith also play Shadow. And I've said before, his Shadow's probably his best performance, depending on the game and the project. They also had Jason Griffith double for Jet, and man, what a choice.
Here's where it's interesting, because I did watch some of the Japanese cutscenes that you're talking about. I was curious when you said, "Oh, Jet sounds kind of like a Sonic." I'm like, "Really?" And then I listened to it, and I'm like, "Are you sure that isn't actually Sonic?" Because they do sound very similar, but it's a different actor. It's quite interesting. But the 4Kids were just like, "No, just make him Sonic, but a bird."
Yeah, just get the same guy. And see, I like what they do in the game to where he is a rival for Sonic, but he kind of is a parallel as well, Jet. He is, I can't remember, I think in some profiles he's a little younger than Sonic. I think when they had official ages, he might have been 14 at one point. So he's a little younger than Sonic, but he is very talented. He can back up a lot of his smack talk, because of that. He's also pretty laid back, but to a point where I wouldn't call Sonic lazy, but Jet is lazy. And so he's like if Sonic had no discipline, or Sonic, didn't actually have friends that cared about him. Like, that's another funny aspect, is that Jet is technically the leader of the rogues, even though he's a little punk ass. And so Storm and Wave, like, he's the boss. Like, I'm sure at the end of the day, they're friends, they're family, but not like in this game specifically, not like Sonic and his friends. Yeah. They're pretty combative with each other. And so there is a good parallel there. And I don't know the Japanese actor's name off the top of my head, but I think specifically Jet is supposed to sound like Sonic. But yeah, the difference between this is they just cast a completely separate actor who is sounding like Junichi Kanemaru's delivery for Sonic. And that's a cool concept. That would have been very neat if they would have brought in another actor in English and said, try and do Jason Sonic, but you're this different character who's a little bit more of an asshole. And man, I don't like Jet's English voice in this game. It hurts me really badly.
The moment he opens his beak. The moment he opens his beak, and it just sounds like Sonic, and Jason Sonic, and then immediately after the next line, it's like Sonic but up to 11 and screechy, and it's bad. Sorry, everyone, if you're a big fan of that voice. I don't think it was a good decision having Jason do that, because he just sounds like this. He sounds like Scratch, but worse. Is kind of how I sort of interpret
I mean, it's Usopp. It's 4Kids Usopp. Like, yeah. I've already played in a separate episode, played a clip of Jason's Usopp, and I'm like, that's what Jet sounds like. And that is not a voice you give to a character who is supposed to in some way be cool. No, that is a voice you give to, like, it's fucking Binky the Clown from Garfield and Friends. Literally.
God! They let me back on the show! Without wings? Well, you might as well kiss the ground and go home.
You're actually right. Now you mention it, I'm thinking of it.
I'm going to play them back to back. 4Kids Jet, Binky the Clown. That's what it fucking is.
Yeah, every time Jet the Hawk talks, it should have that clown music playing in the background.
You'll grow up to be worthless!
That does sound like a thing Jet would say.
I'm sorry for being mean. Yes, I love that you brought that up, that Jet is just a little Nepo birdie, Jake. It's like, oh, Jet's in charge because my dad was in charge.
My dad put me in charge. My dad works at Sega. My dad gave me this shiny cube. I need the Chaos Emeralds.
God, we're not even over the first scene, so...
My dad said my Cloaca's the biggest.
A very inappropriate thing for your father to be saying, Jet.
Big Cloaca energy. So the next day, after Sonic gets his butt kicked by this green bird who laughs at him, leaves him in the dust, Dr. Eggman announces the EX Grand Prix, which is a special race.
It's not just any race, but a special race to see who's the fastest.
Good translation. Very top tier.
It's not as bad as Shadow 05's translation, which I from their episode I would argue completely changes the tone of that game and misses a lot of cool Sonic Adventure 2 references.
This bit just makes Eggman sound stupid.
The translation, the English script for this game, I'll just say it. I won't call anyone lazy because I don't think that's what happened. I think was very like first draft. Like they were not given the time to punch up this English translation, so it sounded like words English speakers would say. So you get lines like Eggman saying, "It's not just a race, but a special race to see who's the fastest." And I was looking at an alternate translation of that from the usual source, Windy on YouTube, and
Windy.
Oh man,
Don't put that evil on our friend.
So Eggman basically says the translation Wendy goes with is this is not just a race to see who's the fastest. This is a no rules, no holds barred battle. And then he mentions that the entry fee is a Chaos Emerald, and whoever wins will get all the Chaos Emeralds. So it's a little goof 'em up, but I mean it's like, come on, how do you read that not see that makes no sense, or that something got, and the answer is they weren't given the time or resources to make
I'm
sure.
sure like even Mike Pollock in there was like reading it. It's like, that doesn't, all right, I'll read it.
Paycheck's a paycheck.
And that's not, we're being a little mean about the voice cast in here, but I mean, just to reiterate, like, they're not in there writing their lines too, and it's not their fault if a take was bad and they wouldn't give them another one. You know what I'm saying? So it's not as bad as Shadow, but this very like serviceable but bland first draft type of translation, I feel like definitely follows into Sonic 06, which makes that story, again, not just boring, but also even more boring or in English. And, even some of much better, they were on an upswing, but even into some of Sonic Unleashed, where you just, again, there's just no panache to the translation. It feels it's not a good adaptation. It is not a solid localization, even if it is technically accurate. But then they race, and then there's genies, and the end happens.
Oh,
Wait,
yeah,
there's
that's all right,
genies.
yeah.
Then we get to know a couple of the other Babylon rogues. Tails is able to take what he learned from dissecting Storm's extreme gear and made the Sonic crew their own, but Wave comes over after one of the races and just talks about like, oh boy, kid, you really thought you could copy my great stuff? This sucks. And then she puts a bomb on it and nobody sees it.
I was actually looking this time, and like if you watch the Heroes cutscene, you can see the bomb stuck to the bottom.
Yeah, Tails is just, Knuckles is like, how does this work anyway? And Tails starts spouting off like some very technical sounding jargon and says something about, if you know the something principle. And I do think it's a little fun, Knuckles does do it like, okay, I get it. It just works. Even if the cutscene is, man, the in-game cutscenes are kind of ugly for this, aren't they?
They're trying to make them cartoony.
Again, they're doing them in engine, have to account for the PlayStation 2 being the least common denominator. So.
Yes.
Right.
I see what they were going for. It just doesn't look very good. They are trying to push the expressions on these characters and do funny, cartoony things. Like Knuckles' eyes start spinning around his head. And I mean, everybody has seen that.
I don't know about you. I didn't think that funny because, as we all know, none of the Japanese produced Sonic media has jokes. That's just unthinkable.
Nope. Yeah, I'm sure this scene in Japanese, if you were to go look at it, Knuckles is actually sitting there listening very quietly and just says, oh, thank you, Tails, I understand now, when he throws his hands out and yells.
Sorry, that cut off partway through, so I just said you go, thank you, Tails. And he ceased to be. Sorry, I'm always going to think of Amy Rose's wink.
That's what I was trying to bring up. Yes, her weird half wink. that you just hear like a SpongeBob squish sound effect when her giant eyelid goes down and Sonic goes, I see what they were going for. I don't think they pull it off. Especially like, the last hero cutscene where Sonic and Amy are running around playing grab ass, and like, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to do the funny anime thing. Everyone laughs in the background, but it just doesn't translate very well, unfortunately.
I mean, this is the GOAT era, as we talked about, when all Sonic was like this. If you love this kind of humor, this kind of like storytelling, you're gonna have a good time, but didn't. So
I don't even mind like that the hero story ends with Amy's mad joke. It's just not even a very good one. Like Eggman literally pulls Amy out of a fucking bush and is like, I'm holding Amy hostage. Don't kill me, Sonic. And Sonic's like, I'm going to do it anyway. And it's silly.
Yeah.
Like, again, might be my bias. He's coming out. I'm not a huge fan of this era and Sonic and Amy's dynamic because it's just kind of mean and tends not to be funny. But it's like the story as a whole is fine. Talking about the Babylon Rogues, it's just some of these little funny parts do not hit.
Which is, I think that aside from the Amy one you were talking about, I think that I don't mind the like a lot of the little gags. I think a fair amount of them do hit for me. Not like super hard, but they do hit. Like I always laugh when, they do the Jet cutaway of Jet thinking to himself and then just thinking of the mountains of treasure around him.
That's like one of the only bits that I still laugh at. And I think, I hate to say it, but this is like one of the only parts where Jason Griffith's voice works for him because he sounds insane. He's laughing. He's like,
the Japanese actor who Luke put up here is Daisuke Kishio, which I think has been Jet this whole time.
Yes.
He does a funny, silly laugh too. So it's not like, it's not like Sega was that was added in. It's just, because Jet in English is already a ridiculous voice, it doesn't hit as hard.
That's right. I was just going to say that, stuff like that, and, even the Knuckles eye roll or like Jet literally fast forwarding through Wave's dialogue, stuff like that still works pretty well.
Yeah, that was great.
Yes, I was going to say I really like that, and despite like any other dynamic, we've complained about it. Like here's the one girl who tells the boys how stupid they're being. I think that fits the Babylon Rogues a little bit better because I mean, come on, Wave doesn't have that much else going on for her anyway, so her kind of being like the haughty scold I think works, not just because she's yelling at these boys and she's the only girl, but also because she is kind of sniffing her own farts about how good at making skateboards she is.
I think it's like if the dialogue were, if the delivery was better, I think I would have enjoyed it more, because you do get certainly when I was watching the Japanese cutscenes, like, oh yeah, I get it. She's full of her own shit, so she's just going on about how great she is, even though, oh, my board is so good, I'm so great, you guys suck. And she's literally just yelling at fucking Storm, saying, your skills just suck, you just suck, and God, and she's just meant to be
suck.
And yeah, what a scene, all right?
That's why Jake
good.
doesn't like the game, because he knows that if his parents were watching, they'd have to start complaining about it.
Well, I don't know about this one. Talking about sucking a whole lot.
I don't know about that.
There's one, I think it's the same, scene we're still talking about, Knuckles and these crazy eyeballs. The shot I hate the most in this game is Tails.
Yeah.
Like Wave has already left, and I think it's Sonic and Knuckles are saying, like, oh man, that was sure mean of that lady to come over here and start dissing Tails.
How did she just walk in and diss Tails? I know, and tinkering's all he's really good at too.
Yeah, Tails gets the most like Damien from The Omen, like shaking with rage before he gets snapped out of it. And again, I see what they were going for. It just looks like he's about to he's finally been pushed too far. It's Hatred the game starring Miles Tails Prower.
Oh no, this is 9 before 9. This is full on school shooter Tails.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But don't like that. Does not does not fit Tails.
I think that's part of the problem, is that it's just, because of the way that they were rendering these in engine, there was only like so much they could do to really convey some of these emotions properly. And
yeah. They were probably experimenting. Yeah.
I think if they were to do these cutscenes in the modern day, it would probably be able to look a little bit better if they were trying to do the same gags.
Yeah, and it's a shame because those pre-rendered scenes do look pretty good. Like there is a a little bit of like, oh, okay, this is still from 2006-ish. But no, they look really good. I think there's only a couple anyway. Yeah, there's only a couple of those, but yeah, like most pre-rendered cutscenes in Sonic still hold up pretty well.
It isn't funny that you're saying, oh, this looks like it's from 2006, but not from 2006.
No, yes, exactly.
Actually, oh man, some of those cutscenes look really great, and then you get to the in-engine, and it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, what almighty, what have you done?
Yeah, I mean, that was, that has been a plague of Sonic Team for a while, that it sure looks like we might finally be past that with Sonic Shadow Generations and the focus on even making basic cutscenes at least interesting to look at with camera angles and not just reverse shot and characters moving like puppets.
Yeah, I don't think they would really like hit their stride with that until Unleashed.
Yeah, even then, like some of the just conversations in Sonic Frontiers have a little bit of that old, like, okay, y'all didn't put much animation in these at all.
Also, I'm realizing we haven't been talking about the tracks like we said we would.
Or much of the story. I mean,
there's not much story for the vast bulk of it. Like until like the last race, from the start until the last race, it's mostly just, different interactions between, Sonic and the Rogues trash talking each other. And,
in the Heroes mode, it pretty much is just like, it's like a Sonic character will be like, gonna get ready for the race, and the Babylon Rogue comes in and it's like, you're a dumbass and suck at extreme gear, but I'm good. Whoops, I tripped and fell on my ass. Whoopity-doo. And then they get and then they get into a race, and at the end they're like, I can't believe I lost, and that's it. It might not be. That might be a slightly generalized version. I mean,
it's not that much of an exaggeration.
Well, and then when Knuckles and Storm get together, it's like, I'm Dan Green. No, I'm Dan Green. Which one of us is Dan Green?
I half expected Yami Yugi to show up and be like, I can't believe this shit.
Believe in the heart of the board.
I do like that's the heart of that scene, even though I think it's drawn out a little bit more, of where they keep punching and killing the robots.
Yeah.
They're just dodging each other. That is pretty funny.
Again, like, I think the gags work most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now I'm wondering, like, as far as like the Japanese voices go, were they doing the same voice thing with Storm and Wave? I guess Wave doesn't really sound like Tails, so that kind of falls apart. But I mean, they are at least archetypes for certain. Like, Storm is the big bruiser, and he's not as stupid as he sounds in English, but him and Knuckles definitely are both the hotheads in this game.
Yeah.
But yeah, Wave tries to kill Sonic. He fortunately survives, but Jet wins the tournament, uses all 7 Chaos Emeralds to shine in his Tesseract. And then the legendary Babylon Gardens raise from up out of the desert. And young little Jeremy got very confused because I thought that was a real, those were a real thing, and wondering why it's in Sonic Riders.
It's one of those cases where, anything old enough, you can just turn into some sort of, mythical whatever you want.
Oh, yeah.
It's true. And you can add birds to it, and it's fine.
Exactly.
It's your own original idea.
It's like anything and everything using like Greek gods, or, I mean, hell, even Sonic goes on to do it with the storybook games. But then we find out that Jet and all of the Babylon Rogues are actually descended from ancient genies who invented the extreme gear back in the day. Well, no, the Babylon Rogues didn't invent it, stole magic carpet technology that would lead to the eventual creation of hoverboards. So Interesting. Eggman is he's double strapped with 2 pistols and takes the treasure, but then passes out when he realizes it's just a dumb carpet.
Yeah, literally doing like the anime, pass out gag.
I like it. I thought it might have been another wonky translation, but watching both versions, no, Eggman really is doing like oh, wow, this carpet is beautiful. Like, this will be in demand from the world's, most richest collectors. And then he stops for a second, is like, but I really went through all that trouble just for this piece of crap, huh? And then passes out.
Whoa.
And then, of course, Jet and the rogues reveal, like, actually, this is a flying carpet.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, okay.
Like, I appreciate that, the Babylon story is more just like the Sonic story is almost like the basic story. The Babylon story is just basically filling in the, backstory details for everything else, as opposed to like really being a dedicated, story. But there are some interesting elements in there, like how,
Sonic 06 would do that same story split, but worse, unfortunately.
But I like how they eventually get to the point where Wave does some digging on the key and on Babylon Garden, because she doesn't think that, they had partnered up with Eggman because he said that he could unlock the treasure of their ancestors. But she starts researching. She's like, I don't think Eggman is telling us the whole story, and goes on this whole thing about the, supposed legends behind Babylon, how the gods gifted this boy with wings, said to be able to rule the world, blah, blah, blah. And just like, bro, I don't care about any of that stuff or about our ancient ancestors or whatever. I just want to prove I'm the best. And I kind of like that simplicity. Like, I think that works for his character.
I actually just reminded of the part where like they find Eggman's diary. Essentially, they pull out like some documents, and it's just like, oh, what has Eggman been saying? And Jet reads it like, oh, those stupid fucking birds! Can't believe they fell for my bullshit scheme. What a bunch of dummies! Wait a minute,
I'm a bird.
I do like that Wave does say like she's begrudgingly saying, like, look, Eggman is a genius, okay? He is super smart and his tech is legit. I just think he's full of shit.
Are you sure? Here's literally a Google Doc where he says that we suck. Maybe you're right.
Writing a call-out post for Eggman right now.
Yeah, like Jet's like, I don't care about ruling the world or, advanced technology or whatever. If it's not something that we can literally get a profit off of, it's worthless to me. And it's only until, Wave convinces him, hey, if he's interested in this, it must have value, which leads to the, cutaway gag of Jet and the big pile of riches.
Capitalism.
Da, 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 da. He does kind of do the Scrooge McDuck dive in the gold pit.
Yeah,
and he breaks every bone in his body doing it.
That's the thing. He didn't learn the skills that you need to actually be able to do that kind of thing. It takes a lot of practice, just like Sonic Riders, where you try to pick this up right off the bat. You get murdered.
Yes. So we've gone through the story. We've said our mean jokes about the voice cast we don't like, that we simultaneously apologize for and also promise to keep doing when it comes to these games.
I'm really sorry, Mr. Jason Griffith.
Once again, it's not their fault. They were just directed that way, and they really shouldn't have been.
Exactly.
It's not Jason Griffith's fault that they told him to make Sonic sound like he's sneezing before every word. It's just... Why? I'm Sonic.
Did they do that on purpose? Because, oh man, Jet and Sonic sure do sound alike. Make your Sonic voice different, Jason. Okay. Who knows? But no, it's and now we're going to move on to talk more about the good stuff, like some of the tracks.
Yeah. So the way this game works is that there's basically 8 different track themes with 2 different tracks in each theme, a Sonic version and a Babylon version. And there is some overlap in their layouts, but only maybe certain specific points, right around the starting line. Other than that, they are largely differentiated, I think. But
they're kind of like Act 1, Act 2, sort of, or more
Yeah.
specifically Sonic Heroes style, where they're like different names, different looks. Although the music is more or less the same, I think.
yeah, the music tracks are the same for each one, but I think that by and large, these tracks are all pretty good, with maybe one or two exceptions that are a little bit harder than I would prefer. But looking at the very start with Metal City for Sonic and Night Chase for Babylon, I think the Metal City makes for a great introductory course to kind of teach you the basics. It's a very simple loop, but it has the different shortcuts for each type, all very clearly laid out so that you can get a feel for them. And it's also got, a long jump right at the start and then a high jump right at the end to teach you how to do those as well. If they were to make an actual good tutorial, that would be a really good stage to just have you run through different sections of to teach you each of the moves.
Yeah, it would be nice if it actually did teach you the basics. In theory, it should teach you the basics, but you've got to know how to play it at that point, and I didn't. So, but once I did, this is a good place to if you go back to it after beating the game, you realize, oh, this shit's easy actually. But you got to get good.
Yeah, I think it does kind of also help to set the tone for the entire rest of the game as well. It's not hard to believe why they decided, hey, we're going to bring this back in Free Riders and make it the secret unlockable track, because it's this is the Green Hill Zone of the Sonic Riders series, where it's the basic thing to teach you how the game works, but it also is sort of iconic in its own right for the way it kind of sets the stage for everything to follow.
Well, it's not really the Green Hill Zone until they keep bringing it back and make everyone sick of it.
That's true.
We've got to keep at it, put it in Racing Crossworlds, and then that'll fully establish it as that.
Oh, we'll get back to Crossworlds. And Night Chase, I think, is a fun little variant of it. It's a little more complicated by comparison. It's you got all of the cop cars running through the tunnel and everything. I think just some really good overall vibes on that one in terms of just really setting the tone for the entire experience, but also having some cool elements like the tunnel with the different crisscrossing paths and everything with the multiple shortcuts.
Well, why I like it is it basically is the playable version of the first CG cutscene.
Yeah.
Where Sonic and Team Sonic meets the Babylon Rogue, so that's kind of cool.
Jumping forward next to Splash Canyon and Red Canyon, which we talked very briefly about in our summer episode. I think this one's neat.
Yeah, I like this one too. I mean, just to jump in, I like I think that's a great term, the Act 1, Act 2 structure of these, to where they're both very similar, but have enough design and layout differences to where they do feel unique enough. But also, I appreciate that in the story mode or even the mission mode, it counts as practice on both. As long as you remember the slight differences to the stages, playing one of the stages will get you used to the other for the most part. But yeah, I like these two. These two river based ones.
There are times in this track where I half expected to hear David Wise Diddy Kong Racing music playing, because it reminded me of a few of those hovercraft tracks that you would play on. It's some good vibes on this one, especially in direct contrast to the first stage, which is all city. Now you're out in the wilds. I like it.
This feels a lot like the kind of stage you would see in one of those arcade racing games, whether it be on a bike or one of those big sit-down whitewater rafting ones where you have the
Hydro
big
Thunder,
or a Hydro Thunder. This feels of that era in a lot of ways, and I like a lot of the set pieces, running down the river or riding up on the big water wheel and everything. Actually, this has reminded me, something we did not mention was all the points in each course where every course has one section where you got to spin the stick to refill your air, and
That's right.
And go a little faster.
Yeah, go a little bit faster, which, you don't have to spin it as hard as you do in Mario Party 1, so immediate upgrade.
Oh boy.
I don't think anybody ever got blisters from Sonic Riders, thankfully.
Maybe if you're really getting into looking at wave response. Sorry, no, let's carry on.
Yeah, like good vibes on these ones. I still don't think they quite fit our best Summer Zones list, but I would gladly, play these again, I think. The third set is Egg Factory and Ice Factory, which I think this might be one of my favorite music tracks on the soundtrack, personally. Just that big, thick, bumping kind of industrial thing.
We haven't really talked about the music much, I'm just realizing.
Yeah.
Now. Maybe we'll actually get into covering the music once we've covered all the levels, because I think it is worth talking about.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't stick with me the same way like Sonic R's music does, for example, because that will never leave our brains for the
Of course.
till the heat death of the universe, because good lord.
I like the music a lot. I wish I had a better vocabulary for the kind of techno it is. But I like the not only the stage music, but like the menu music and the music around. Like I love the victory theme when you cross it. The kind of
Yeah.
I think they're pretty good. I probably, if you ask me right now after revisiting the game, I probably could only pick out Egg Factory from the lineup, aside from the theme songs, because of that thumping, driving beat. But yeah, I do really like Egg Factory as a level and the theme music as well.
I think having all the lava flowing all around you really adds to the atmosphere in a lot of really cool ways. But then, seeing it again in Ice Factory, where everything is completely frozen over and you've got slight ice physics from what I can tell, not super significant, but they are there. And then having a bunch of these different spots where there had been moving machinery blocking your path, but then it's all stopped up in the ice version. And then you've also got the big fan blades so the power characters can punch through. It's cool. It's just cool.
And hot, depending on which act.
Yes, that's true.
No, that's interesting, because it just makes me think a little bit of Lava Reef. How Act 1 is hot and the second one is, well, ostensibly cold. It looks cold. But the whole split elements in the levels is hardly new. Other games are doing that beforehand. I think of Banjo 2.
Yeah, with Hailfire Peaks.
That's the one. Yeah, cool idea for that. I like that.
Number 4, which I think might be one of the most memorable original stages in this game, Green Cave and White Cave. This is the song. This is the music track that I think is by far the one most people remember, with the chanting in the background and all of the on top of the. It's like if Elena's theme from Street Fighter 3 went fully techno and unhinged.
I kind of like how, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but these two levels have a real green forest and white jungle from Sonic Adventure 2 thing going on.
They also feel a little bit like inversions of one another, where in Green Cave it's mostly you riding on these big kind of tubular vines going around and around. And whereas White Cave is more kind of taking the opposite approach, where everything is hollowed out and you're kind of in these big half pipes for the most part. And I think that's an interesting way of mixing things up. Not a great stage for people who have insectophobia or whatever.
Yeah, giant, enormous, 100-foot long centipedes.
I do love at the end of both tracks, where if you do the high jump, you can bounce up on the spider webs that'll spring you up over the tree line. That's just a cool set piece.
Yeah, that is essential if you're trying to clinch first place.
And I am also excited that apparently this one is coming back as a Crossworld in Crossworlds.
Oh, interesting.
Ooh, okay.
Nice.
I will be interested in that.
Yeah. Another one where I think just the vibes are really good between the music and the atmosphere and everything. I think that there might be some disagreement on which of the next couple tracks is the hardest one, but for me, Sand Ruins in particular over Dark Desert was definitely the one I struggled with the most.
It's really tough.
I remember when I first played this, Dark Desert has that interesting shortcut that comes from riding someone's turbulence and doing a trick, and you jump into the ceiling and can get that secret 100 ring kind of box. That is not present in Sand Ruins, which is a much more technical one, which Sand Ruins, above anything, has the most, like, I'm not sure if this shortcut actually saves any time except for getting air back. Yeah, I think Sand Ruins might be a little goofier for me as far as it has some really precise timing on some jumps that can be really frustrating.
The problem with that one for me is that I would always get caught in people's slipstream when I'm trying to, you get past the first big jump and you're on that little corner before you jump into the ruins. And every time I try to take some of the shortcuts in that little section, and there are a fair number of them, I always end up getting pulled into somebody's slipstream and getting not only missing the shortcuts, but getting thrown off the edge because the sand is flowing down into the pit. So it's hard to get around that corner.
That was one of my biggest issues with Turbulence in general, because I really do like the slipstream system of like being able to capture, like gain more ground and especially do tricks off the slipstream, but there was also more than a handful of times where I would get caught in the slipstream, couldn't get out because you're just stuck there, and then...
Now, you can get out, it's just not always effective.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you press both triggers, you can port yourself out
the tornado thing that nobody uses. Okay.
Yes.
It was so often that, like, I got in the slipstream and then they just conveniently finished while you're like at a corner where if you don't hit hard enough or whatever, you just fly off. And I'm just like, well, great, that's the third time that's happened. I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
It is really frustrating in the single player mode in particular, because when we're experiencing this, we're experiencing it as the finale of the actual race in story, where it's only 4 characters. But like, you're like, oh, 4 characters, that means it's less. I can get there. I could probably get to the lead of 4 people. That's fine. And then you don't. But like, anytime you're like you think you're just there. You think, okay, I'm right behind the guy in first place. If I just take a shortcut here and failed. Okay, it's just like anticlimactically the word failed just goes on the screen. You're just like, well, so much for my momentum there. It's very funny how they do that, but
it's like there are cool things in those stages. Like I love kind of the indoor portions, how much there is to kind of. When you get into the ruins and Sand Ruins, there's 3 different tiers depending on where you enter. And there's actually like, you got to really work to maintain if you want to stay on the higher paths or even the middle paths and not drop down and have to kind of lose speed compared to the others. Like, I appreciate that there is that kind of inherent difficulty setting in the design where you can, take this much easier route, but it's also going to be much more difficult to actually stay there. That is very much in the spirit of classic Sonic level design.
Yeah, I was just thinking, when you put it like that, it is like, get to the top thing to get the top layer to get past it faster, but watch out, because it's the hardest one. So that's kind of cool, but you got to get good at the game to do that, and that's not easy, especially on tracks like this one that just feel brutal, man. I had this one in particular, and also it's a preview of the entire aesthetic of Sonic and the Secret Ring. So if you love desert stages, get ready. It's a lot of this. I don't know. It's still cool though. The idea is cool. I especially like the one where what's the name of the second one again? Dark Desert, where it starts off in lighttime, but then there's like an eclipse and everything goes pitch black. And I'm like, that's really cool. And then you play it, you're like, oh no, I'm not having. Actually, it's not as bad as Sound Ruins. I think I got used to that one a bit quicker.
I think that it's also got some really cool set pieces where it's like, you're launching yourself off of the big bows back into the Coliseum, or like the little warp thing sends you into that random town at the end of Dark Desert.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, I think this game's aesthetics are incredible overall.
It looks amazing. It just occurred to me, like, Jeremy, you were mentioning the Rashomon-like nature to this story, and that you're seeing the two different characters' versions of the events. That includes the two different characters' versions of the races. Like, which ones are canon?
I guess
Did they do both? Did it just happen, like, is it like an alternate timeline where the eclipse happened? Or is this just the Babylon Rogues' version of the story where they got the cooler versions? And then there was an eclipse, and it looked really cool, and I did a lot better on that race because it was easy, and I won perfectly fine, and Sonic didn't blow up at all.
I'm just thinking of, the eclipse, and now I'm imagining Jet and Berserk, and I don't want to think anymore.
Oh no! Damn it, Griffith, Jason.
No, it wasn't that Griffith's fault.
Jet did nothing wrong.
I mean, he looked kind of like a bird in that outfit, I think.
Yeah.
But
I know, he does kind of have that same helmet, the helmet structure. Got to put Jet in the dungeon for a year and sever all of his tendons. That's what that little bastard deserves.
They haven't made a new Sonic Riders game because they've just been on the boat this whole time.
I guess I really haven't revealed that I was having a hard time with this game. And then by the time I made it through the stories and started doing a few missions, it did click. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm having a lot of fun suddenly. Like, I definitely feel like I still could get much better. Like I couldn't just drop into the World Grand Prix and get gold rank on those, which is, it's Mario Kart 3-star rules. You got to get first in every race to get the gold rank and unlock the Sega courses. But instead of thinking like, man, I missed it, I'm like, well, no, I could keep practicing and get better at this. And so I was pretty surprised at the end of it that I started to really come around and understand why, first of all, why you were so enthusiastic, Luke, but people in general, like, still remember this first Riders game specifically.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm just, as you're gushing about how much you actually started having fun, I'm just imagining Jake in a corner, just like slowly, but steaming with like a kettle going on. I don't know if you had the same experience, Jake.
Just like Tails in that one scene I don't like.
I guess this is a good time for me to like make my feelings known.
Please.
I do not hate this game at all. I also don't particularly like it.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I legitimately had a really good time playing with you guys. And like, if there was ever a Saturday where we're not recording but like we're planning and just hanging out, I'd be like, I'm totally down to play this again because I had fun with you guys. But I don't really see myself coming back to this game at all because of just, to me, lackluster story and not fun gameplay. That's just kind of how I feel about it. And like, Luke, I know how much you like this game, and I hope that's not poo-pooing on your mood on it, but that's just how I feel. Okay, good.
I mean, like, I think the problem is it's the same thing I had, is that when you're forcing yourself to play the story mode, because that feels like the main event of the whole thing, the story mode is kind of really brutal and horrible, because you've got to get, like, after the first couple races on the hero mode, you've got to get first place. Or then you lose. You get the fail noise.
More than anything, what this game needs are a good tutorial, and B, a 50cc setting.
Right.
Yeah.
Better handling boards at the beginning.
Yeah, because on the story mode, you're forced into using their like base boards as opposed to the cool shit. So you
don't unlock any of the other stuff until you finish both the story modes, and I feel like that's okay, but the biggest thing would be to make the story mode, if that's supposed to be the first thing you play, I think the story mode should act more as a warm-up tutorial for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And I think it does and doesn't do that. It basically, I wish it did it better.
Yeah.
Like we were saying at the beginning, as far as incorporating a better tutorial.
I do agree with you on that, Jeremy, because it's not a completely different game style, but I'm thinking about how when I played, because I was just thinking about Vita games recently when I was listing my list of favorite Vita games for the Good Vibes gaming list, and I was just like, I remember Persona 4 Dancing All Night. That was a lot of fun. I played through the story mode, and it was really forgiving and nice and a really cool rhythm game. Let's try playing any single one of the slightly harder difficulty setting ones after I'm done with it. Oh no, I hate this game now. But yeah, I played through the story, so I'm already into it now, so it's just like, well, I don't need to do any of that now. It's so if it's going to be a story mode, I feel like you need to just put on the training wheels just a little bit. For people who just want to enjoy the story, I guess.
There's one more thing I want to make clear on my end, because like I kind of realized like earlier it kind of sounds like I'm just complaining about maybe being a bad player at the game, which I'm kind of a bad player at the game, but
no, me too.
But like, and I know I complained a lot about the handling. I don't expect the game to give me the absolute best gear like at the start, because this is a game. Like, it's fun to be able to earn better equipment and stuff like that, and that's to be expected. But like, I think the thing that really got me was the fact that like at the second to last race, we have that bit where Sonic's board blows up, and then Tails is like, "Here, this is a better one," and it plays the exact same. The exact same. It's still a really crappy board.
No, because I want to be clear, Jake. And Jake, did you play this game when it came out? I know Faulerro didn't.
I'm pretty sure I rented it from Blockbuster maybe once or twice.
Okay.
But it's been a long time.
But probably not as much as like me and Luke. And so I'm glad we have this dynamic. And I don't want you to feel bad for expressing your opinion, because you didn't play the game wrong. Yeah. In fact, I'm glad you're here, because you are having like, I feel like one of us usually has that different experience that pushes back on a lot of and I'm sorry, I'm not going to bring up Sonic Twitter, but just like when people who really talk about this game, like, man, this was better than Mario Kart. I can't believe Sega didn't know what to, and I do like it. It's a fun game, but I at least want people to see that, like, well, it's okay that it's not perfect. Like, we are talking about, most of us, how, hey, we did end up having a fun time with this, but I sure wish this was different. Or, it really does feel like if they could have refined it to where, it doesn't glitch out and, oops, I missed that jump that I definitely shouldn't have. Or like we said, should have had a better tutorial built in, or if I slam into the wall, it shouldn't spin me around going the wrong way and then I lose my, you know what I mean? So like, I don't want you to feel bad, Jake, for saying like, oh, I had trouble with this game because of like, Sonic fans are going to blow up your house. I think you're okay on our podcast.
I'm with you, Jake. Yeah. This game is brutal to begin with. It's just not an easy one to get. I'm sorry, Luke did point out in the text chat that yes, the board is slightly different that Tails gives Sonic. You mentioned it has better speed but worse cornering.
So it's worse for Jake.
Doesn't tell you that in the story mode.
Oh yes, so. Yeah. Jake's already like, oh, I hate the cornering in this game. I hope this new board is better. Nope.
What if we took this board and made it worse? And like,
Jake does not want to gotta go fast.
I want to.
Oh, but man, I was waiting for that to come up.
Yeah, and like I mostly wanted to like express my opinion about that, because I couldn't help but think about like YouTube comments just like, well, the boards is, you just don't realize that you got to earn things to get better. Yes, I do.
If you're struggling this much with like the basic story mode, though, it bears repeating. That's a bit much, I feel like they could have balanced things out better and should have.
Like, Jake, if you're not willing to put in the work, how are you going to unlock the Goku cloud that goes incredibly fast but you can't actually control? Or the crazy taxi board that takes rings instead of air? Or the little super hang-on board that plays super hang-on music and that's it?
Yeah, I meant to. I guess now I can finally go around and say I think the bikes and the skates are cool. I think the boards are the easiest thing to get used to. The unlockables in this game sure do look cool, but man, a lot of them are like,
they've all got weird gimmicks.
Yeah, like even I think even the supersonic thing is, I don't remember what is he rings also? He has infinite boost.
He's all rings, but without like but still like super highest stats, and he can use all 3 shortcut types.
Okay, I do remember. I guess supersonic is pretty cool. It's not as bad as
Sonic R. No, just thinking about Sonic R like ruining friendships.
Yeah, it's better balanced, but it's still like way stronger overall.
It's bad enough that you have to grind to get the 50,000 plus ish rings to use in the black market, and then most of the unlockables are not. Like you said, it's cool. Like, oh man, there's a Goku Nimbus whatever flying cloud, but it sucks. Don't use it. And like, oh yeah, it's the hang on and super hang on things, but they just kind of changed the music. But that's fun. Yeah, okay. Thought over. I'm running out of things to say.
I was gonna say we got a couple of more tracks to get through real quick.
Yeah, we need to cover the rest of the actual. Game.
Babylon Garden and Sky Road are the other ones that I think are easily the hardest in this game, depending on.
Yeah.
I personally thought that Sand Ruins was harder, but I totally get people who struggle with these two.
I really had to learn how to do flight for Sky Road in particular, because if you don't, you fail, because you need to take those shortcuts on that one.
Yeah, that's basically it, is until you find the, just the most optimal path in both of these, like, you will get frustrated, you will fall off trying to do tight corners. These were definitely more frustrating, but then going back to them, it was a little easier to win them. Once I knew like where to go. But no, I had a lot of problems with this the first time around, and was like, okay, kind of maybe I should watch that video CyberLink sent me again.
I'm just thinking about, like, you're on this like ancient ruin stage, and like the ground, as you progress through the laps, the floor does start falling out from under you, and you're seeing that happen. I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, good thing I'm on a flying hoverboard.
Yeah.
Gotta turn up the juice.
It is kind of Back to the Future rules, where like it still needs something under it to generate that lift.
Hoverboards don't work on water.
Yeah, you got no power. One of those guys was Billy Zane.
Yep. I always thought it was cool, when you're riding on the slipstream path through the air, and then the little ancient fighter jet thing carries you over the track. I always thought that was neat. It's not the final stage, because we got in the story we have a boss battle against the Babylon Guardian, this giant genie hologram thing
who goes.
If you're playing the Babylon story and you've gotten to the end as not Jet but Wave, Wave has got to finish the last race, and you're like, oh, surely Jet takes over. Nope. It's Sonic. It's Sonic takes over. It's like, hey, this is my game, motherfucker. Get out of here. Fake me. And then
this stage, because I think you unlock this stage to race on, and it's got a cool like heaven hell thing going on. And there was another game I remember playing on somebody's PS1. Gosh, I think it was a motorcycle racing game, but had a level like this. Depending on if you tricked high enough, you would make it to the heaven part of the stage, and if you fell off the track, you'd go down to the hell part.
Specifically, like the actual track version has that. Like, I remember, like, when you're facing the boss track, it's just like the Hell Dimension one that eventually like kind of transitions to a cyberspace. But yeah, if you're playing on like the actual racetrack, when you're on the racetrack one, yeah, you go to heaven. It's great, like partway through. But when you're on the hell one, there's like flimming hands, like skeletal hands reaching down to pull you down into the...
Further evidence that this game's aesthetic rules.
There's the big scary face, and the gargoyles.
Oh, that face in like cool. The big mess under the jump always got me. Like, it's so cool.
That was another one as a kid. I'm like, oh, I don't know about this.
If my parents see this.
But yes, and we talked about how the giant genie, even though they do imply, I guess they're trying to imply the ancient Babylonians also had this hologram tech, but the genie is real, like was a real thing, because they're like, oh no, Babylonians are descended from genies, so Yeah, sure, why not? And the
So,
genie
Jeremy,
is
I
funny.
remember when you were talking about this to begin with, you were like, and to beat him, you've got to go get his pot. And I'm like, hang on.
Yeah,
I'm not saying a
moves
word.
through his pot, and it harshes his vibe, and so the simulation is temporarily destroyed.
Yeah, like my understanding was that it was like the security system for whatever simulation. So I don't think it was technically real, but it's all a bit confusing, especially when you bring in the story details from the next game, which we'll talk about when we get to that game.
Yes, which is funny that now retroactively makes more sense, giving other games that came after it. So we'll
It
get
does
there.
kind of make the aesthetic of Digital Dimension and Babylon Guardian work a lot more knowing that, but it is what it is, and I still think this level it looks cool, if nothing else.
It's a great vibe. Sorry, I know it's just the actual track version, though. Well, I mentioned it going from heaven to hell. I'm just imagining Jake playing this when he's younger and his family looking at him like, oh, you've gone to heaven, Jake. That's really great. If you stay on track, then you too can get to be like, oh my god, where are they taking you? You've descended into the abyss, child. No, take this away from him.
Narrow is the road.
Go back to watching VeggieTales.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all the story tracks, but if you are good enough to beat the World Grand Prix, you get what are very clearly the coolest tracks in the game, Sega Carnival and Sega Illusion.
Yay.
It's good fun.
Even when I first played this game, 20 years ago, and hadn't played a lot of the games that it's referencing, this was just cool, man.
I did give them a quick play earlier with that save file of yours. Really cool, just fan service for... I don't know how many kids playing this were actually knew what these are from, but hey, this is for the real fans who learn how to play this game and unlock them, unlike me.
Yeah. All the kids who got in on GameCube aren't going to know what Samba de Amigo or Space Channel 5 or Choo Choo Rocket are, but it's like...
I knew Crazy Taxi at least. I think I had, because I was a Dreamcast kid, but didn't have a ton of Sega first party stuff. But I think I did at least know. I definitely knew Samba de Amigo because I remember seeing like a display for that and could never justify asking for the, however expensive the maracas were for the Dreamcast. I think I knew most of these by then, but this, like the Sega All-Stars games that started to come out, it did teach me more about like Sega's history, not really realizing like, Gold Max and stuff like that was also first-party Sega. So I was able to appreciate some of these, and they're just really fun tracks too.
What's represented here? Because I know I saw like Knights in the first one and Crazy Taxi.
Carnival is first is that Samba de Amigo portion. Then you jump onto the pirate ship from Billy Hatcher. You can actually see Billy and the second boss up on the upper level. You fire out of the cannon around the tower from Knights. You go on Super Monkey Ball, and if you can, stay up on the platforms without falling off, you can like go through the gate and get some rings. And then it ends with the Crazy Taxi portion where you can just drive through normally. It's got the big arrow up top because of course it does. But if you go behind the sign to where the little dollar icon is, Axel will pick you up in his taxi and drive you to a different part of the track.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't get that.
It's just, there's so many great touches to that stage. It rules. And then on the Illusion version, which I don't think is as interesting, but it's still very cool. You start off on the Samba portion and have a bunch of Opas flying around that the power characters can knock out. Then you move into the Knights portion where you can actually, like, if you do a turbulence jump, you can get up to a higher illuminated path or go through the rings that will carry you. And then you ride a blimp over to Space Channel 5 where there's like a big fight with the Marolians happening that you can knock out. And then it moves into Choo Choo Rocket for the last portion where the arrows will send you through the maze. And it's just really smart use of all the different gimmicks from all of these different games. And I think it's probably one of the coolest racetracks that they've ever put in a racing game. And like there are Sega tracks in Zero Gravity, but I don't think they are nearly as interesting, which we will no doubt talk about when we get to those games. Yeah, outside of all those main modes, there's a surprising amount of extra content in Riders too, which is part of the reason why I think it's actually like still a solid time, because you've got, your typical time attack stuff, the Grand Prix mode, but it's also got mission mode, which is maybe the coolest part of the game, I think, because it does give you like a lot. I feel like it was a big inspiration on like the mission mode and the world tour from like the Sega All-Stars games later down the line, where you've got like the different missions, you're trying to get the higher ranks and everything. And granted, getting a gold rank on all those missions is not easy, and it's the only way you're going to get supersonic. But I think it's cool that they give you all of these missions that are actually a pretty good way of properly teaching you the mechanics and how to get better at the game and the tracks. And then, actually giving you a worthwhile reward for taking the time to do the best you possibly can on all of them.
I thought I was doing really well with them. I did a bunch. I did like all of Storms, all of Waves. I was like, cool. That was difficult. That last one was a pain in the ass, but I'm glad I'm done. Oh, wait, no, I was just done with one of the tracks.
Yeah.
There's actually like a bunch.
Yeah, they've got 5 for every
no.
track, plus all of those extra missions for Jet.
Yeah, this mode is very fun and does, like I said, I think this is probably the best way to practice up to be able to ace all of these courses, because you would think it would, and I mean they're bite-sized, they're missions, so you don't have to do 50 of them in a row. But I like how each course has, it's at least the first 3 are the same. It's like do a bunch of tricks, fly through a bunch of the things anyway, but the missions are like the same category, and yeah, it lets you learn like, okay, here's where the trick jumps are, here's where the shortcuts are, and then you can take that back into the other modes and have that apply those skills there. And yeah, the unlockables are usually some of the better ones. Like, forget the stuff you have to buy. This is how you unlock Supersonic. I think, is this also how you unlock the board you were talking about earlier that lets you do like one? Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied again. Oh boy, man, I'm running out of fuel.
Running out of air.
Yes. Is the mission mode how you unlock the boards that let you use an additional rider type like speed and flying?
I don't think so. I think those can just be bought, but the ones you unlock in mission mode are like some of the ones with the best stats, generally speaking. Like there's actually, it's a little gimmicky where you play some of the missions where you have to collect junk, and that adds to your total to repair the board, where you also need to like find the hidden repair manual, and the board remains in certain stages, and then collect enough junk to craft the fixed version. Like it's interesting. I think that, just having that adds a lot to the replay value, and I think that goes a long way to making it a more interesting game, even worth recommending to this day.
I feel like the one that really kicked my ass was like, keep your speed above 140 at all times, and that one was like, I was like, okay, I can do that. Right through the starting gate, failed.
You gotta get your running start.
It's rough.
But yeah, a couple extra modes that only really are, worth trying out in multiplayer is tag mode, where you and a partner share an air meter, and you can like get more speed if you ride a partner's slipstream while getting less speed if you ride opponents. It's an interesting, mix in the formula. No, not super in depth, but it's a fun way to, try something new if you're playing in a party setting or whatever. And then they've got survival mode, which is either carry a Chaos Emerald that will like drain your meter super fast, but whoever goes through 5 different checkpoints gates with the Emerald wins, and you get like near unlimited air when you're not carrying the Emerald. So there's really like fun kind of back and forth dynamic with everybody targeting whoever's got the Emerald. And then that's also where the battle mode is, which actually has original like battle mode stages with completely different aesthetics from any other courses, which is neat. Like it's also a different dynamic from like battle mode and other kart races where you have to collect items and use them to attack, because, you've got your boost attack. You can attack at literally any point in the race as opposed to, having to get something to do it. So the items you get in that are all like buffs for your attack or your defense or your speed or to trigger stage hazards, stuff like that. I think that really mixes it up in interesting ways compared to, some of the other games battle modes.
I wish I could have played these more. I did. They're clearly feel like they're ideal for multiplayer, but you can play them with CPU and it's fine. Space Theater. That's straight out of Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah, Space Theater is an interesting one because the item you can do for the stage hazard makes a UFO come pick up the different stage tiles and move them around. So it's actively
So they already had aliens in this one?
Yes. But it's actually changing the layout as you play, which I think is a neat feature. The Snow Valley has just giant Eggman snowmen that hop around crushing people, and Dual Towers has giant crows that will swoop down and attack.
While we're talking about extra modes, I think it's germane. The items in this game, super weird. The ones that you will see 99% of the time are just extra air and extra rings. There are many other power-ups in this game that just the percentage chance of picking them up is so low. You might never see some of them. I have played this game, for several dozen hours over the course of leading up to the show. I never saw the slow you down item.
I got it once, I think. My understanding is that they're more frequent in survival mode.
I got, during regular races, the speed up shoes a few times, which I think just gives a tiny boost to your top speed for a few seconds, and maybe invincibility once. And I think a couple of times the magnetic shield, which is...
Yeah, the magnet was the one I got the most.
But no, if they were not in this game, I don't think it would matter at all. The rings in the air are fine on their own. It is definitely not in the Mario Kart way where items could make or break a comeback in a race, that's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely know I never got the bomb attack item even once during all my playtime. I don't even know how often I got it in my original playthrough or my one of the later ones. Maybe it only shows up in multiplayer. I don't know.
I actually forgot that there was a whole, we didn't actually mention that collecting rings actually levels up your character, did we? You need to do that if you want to actually be good at the game.
It increases your speed and expands your air tank. So again, it is one of those things where you do have to be constantly trying to manage your resources and everything. And if you fall off or get attacked, you lose all of them, which is incredibly demoralizing.
Oh, I've said so many times under my breath, especially, look, I'll own it if it's my dumbass driving off the course. There were several times where I just clipped through geometry or missed a jump that I shouldn't. And then, yes, you lose all 100 of your rings back to level 0 and just... Son of a bitch.
Yeah, how many times this happened to me? A character runs up to me, just beats the shit out of me, and twists me up into a pretzel.
That mechanic is interesting. And as you level up, that's also one of the things is that when you boost, your character goes into attack mode. Let me tell you,
the level ups do increase your different attack types as well.
Oh yeah, by the time if you're fully leveled up, you spend a good full 5 seconds in attack mode, and if any character looks at you, you will destroy them. But then getting hit by that is maybe the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my life, because getting hit by a full powered up attack, not only you lose all your rings, you are frozen in place like a dead corpse for 4 seconds. And I'm like, well, I might as well quit. Turn the game off. But it's not, unless it happens on the third lap, it's not impossible to come back from if you lose your rings. But man, like you said, you feel like a real ding dong.
It's one of those reasons why, I appreciate that most of the courses have that secret 100 ring thing, because it's a good, if you know where it's hidden, it's a good way to get yourself kind of back in the running if you lose all your rings from a pretty bad attack or whatever. But it also is a risk reward thing of, do I get it now so I can get into the lead early, or do I save it for later in case I get knocked out and need to recover rings fast? Because it only works once in the race, so.
Although you got to watch out, because that literally before we started recording, I was doing the hero story again just for the hell of it, and got to the last sand ruins, and that happened to me, and I'm like, geez, I better grab that 100 rings on this last lap, and it was gone because an NPC character had grabbed it using the same shortcut. So that is a thing that can happen.
Yep. God, the NPCs are so fucking mean in this game, actually.
Yeah.
I know. Sometimes I feel like I really am playing against real players, because they'll just be winning. I'm like, no, you're not supposed to be able to do that. You're supposed to be the ones I beat.
The attacks are also very silly. Everybody has seen the, again, we're sharing screenshots in the chat, the one where Knuckles just screams with his big scary teeth. Does everyone remember Creams, where she just bursts into tears and her head gets giant? And that upsets the other person enough to make them lose all their rings. Sonic is a unique one where he does do a super spin, or a whatever you call it. I love Shadow basically T-poses with a big ball of chaos energy. He puts his hands out and just holds this ball as he floats around in attack mode. It's so silly.
I just imagine if Omega was in this game and you using his top level attack, and he just shoots missiles and guns everywhere.
Yeah, he pulls out those pistols from the story mode and just starts blasting.
I always keep that thing on me.
That's what I'm saying about this game. I think it does really good with kind of comedy slapstick stuff.
When it works, it works. When it doesn't, it does not, in my opinion. Yeah. So yes, I agree wholeheartedly.
But yeah, that's basically Sonic Riders. So, as I put in the outline, does this game deserve its reputation affectionate or its reputation derogatory?
Because of the experience I have with this game, I can say yes to both of those questions, especially with our varying opinions we've heard today on the show, to where it does require you to put the work in to learn the game, but also it doesn't do a great job of letting you learn those things right out of the gate. So yeah, I can say I have definitely turned down a little bit of my knee-jerk ire to, and I apologize to all of the genuine people out there, but it's the YouTube algorithm and the bad people on Sonic Twitter that are always speaking hyperboles about this game. But no, this was another one to where I feel a little bit better, just because of the nature of this being a spin-off game that's shorter. It's not a main game. It plays different. Of even recommending this one a little more wholeheartedly than a Shadow the Hedgehog that is yes, you should try it, but all these caveats. And this one, I'm I'm not going to go tell you oh, go get a Japanese GameCube ROM and you have to play that version. Like we said, the English version is annoying and the translation is bland, but if you don't care about that like we do to an unhealthy degree, then that's not going to bother you. So yes, I would say absolutely give it a shot. We have put our videos we have referenced in this episode today. Give that tutorial video a watch, and yes, try Sonic Riders if you are curious about why another Sonic game from the mid-2000s that people say is peak and quote unquote glaze it constantly. Yes, I ended up having fun with Sonic Riders. Again, reminded me of when I had it as a kid, and in a good way. So that is from me at least.
It's kind of interesting because my simple answer is it's okay. I love the aesthetic. I don't like the time period it came out, and that's kind of sorry.
This is what I'm saying.
This is just my elaborate answer is like, yeah, it came out at a bad time because the 2005 to 2009, that 5-year era, was a colourful one for Sonic. It is the entirety of the 4Kids era of the dub, but that doesn't actually reflect on the quality of the games, just the presentation.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that all of that happened during the time period where the voices were the ones that people had when they grew up and life was good. And the Western side of things was largely cordoned off into the comics. It was all like... And you know, you've got to be fair to Sonic Riders because it really wasn't cut and dry back then. Like, the games weren't automatically bad. This just happened to be the one good one that came out in 2006, I think, is a fair way to put it. This was just a time period. Sorry, you were saying?
I'm trying to remember, how was this received when it first came out? Because I can remember, I can remember some things at the time, but not like... It's so clouded, especially nowadays, where it's hard to like remember how people felt then. Like, we've talked about the infamous, there were some outlets that gave Sonic 06 like, 7s and 9s out of 10. And I don't remember how, I remember the
reviews as I remember them are generally in like the 6 range. Like, I think that, like they said, like we've been saying, a lot of it, if you want to hit those highs, it takes a lot of, time really sitting down and getting to grips with what the game wants you to do. But I think that it's just does not do a very good job of conveying that. So if you're only playing, very briefly for, first impressions or whatever, it's not going to reflect well. And I think that was reflected in the scores and a lot of the fan reception at the time, where I think that people in the Sonic fandom were generally pretty high on it, but it was very divisive even back then.
I can see that, because it is not a beginner-friendly game at all.
Nope.
You've really got to get used to it, and I can understand like people reviewing it like, Jesus Christ, what is this? But this was during the time period where Sonic Team were throwing spaghetti all at that wall. They were doing a lot more experimental stuff, which led to this one and led to like lots of dizzying highs and despicable lows, as I put in my notes here. And this was just these games were coming off the identity crisis that was Sonic Heroes and, stuff like Sonic X, which were like sort of establishing what Sonic is in the 2000s. And then things got really weird in 2005. The peak era that people talk about is really odd. So I feel bad for Sonic. There were good things because, yes, Shadow the Hedgehog, we've come around to it, but it was a questionable choice. The fact that they chose to give a hedgehog a gun. Sonic 06 happened to all of us, and we can't undo that, even if the game technically did. Yeah. Sonic and the Secret Rings, that was weird. Sonic Unleashed, people love that one. Half of it, at least. Sonic and the Black Knight, Jesus Christ, people won't shut up about that one. But we can't forget about... Sorry, you were saying?
No, we didn't mention this whole time that, like, the whole back and forth thing between Sonic and Jet is to be, like, become the mysterious wind.
That's more or less the Japanese version, right? Because they told... I think it was, like, localized in the game as, like... It was like, you can't fly without wings. And he's like, I can fly even without wings. Sorry, Jason.
Yeah,
I think
it still makes it into the dub, but is much more explicit. Yeah, he doesn't say, like, even without wings, I still fly. I think in the Japanese version, he says, like, I don't need wings to become the wind or something. But yes, just the wind. But
the wind.
Again, we only tease. Just thought it was funny. Before your beloved Black Knight, they were the wind on hoverboards.
I think there's another important factor to consider in terms of like how this was received at large is that, Sonic games don't exist in a bubble, more so when they try to do a game in another genre. And you know what else had already come out before Sonic Riders? Mario Kart Double Dash and DS, four different SSX games, and every Tony Hawk game up through Thug 2, or actually up through American Wasteland.
Yep.
Oh,
wow, yeah.
There's kind of, steep competition when it comes to racing and or boarding games.
Yeah.
Especially extreme racing games,
not to take us down another rabbit hole, but yeah, didn't several years ago, like a pitch for a straight up Sonic skateboarding game got leaked that had like some proof of concept
Sonic
footage.
Extreme, but with an E this time.
Man, I'd be so down for that.
Yeah. And that turned into, that was a pitch by a certain person that basically like, hey, I think this could work. And then, eventually became, or hard to say, you can't say like nobody's ideas got stolen.
Yeah,
here.
it was by Visionscape, the company that did the CG cutscenes for Sonic Heroes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they already had a working relationship, and they pitched. My understanding is they pitched this game to Sonic Team, but they were like, apparently they were interested, and then they decided, no, we're not going to do that. And then shortly after, Sonic Riders was announced, and the guys at Visionscape were like, hang on.
Hold up.
That's interesting.
I just remember seeing, like, I think it is a Sonic Adventure 2 looking models of Sonic and Shadow just going through. Actually reminds me of the skateboarding sections in, is it Spyro 2?
3
is what it reminds me of. 3. But yeah, just a proof of concept that like, hey, Sonic's cool, skateboarding games are cool and hot, and I thought it was very interesting. But yes, Sonic Riders is definitely not a Tony Hawk like, but you can see, like you said, mentioning all those things, Luke, how you could arrive at a Sonic Riders putting all those things together.
Well, it is like an elaborate sort of like reimagining of that concept, making it Sonic-y by doing some weird otherworldly shit by making like hoverboards and whatnot and genies. We have to remember, like, as much as I like to dunk on like a lot of the games in this era, we were getting shit like Sonic Rush and Sonic Rush Adventure. So and those games often, like, I feel like those games get remembered because those are off on the handhelds, but this was like caught up in the mire that were the things going on the consoles, and I feel bad for the game because of the association with literally the year it came out, being 2006, and the game is a lot better than it deserves. Its reputation, I don't know. It's a difficult thing to talk about, but this was during that time period.
Yes, and like you said, they were Sega and Sonic Team, with the nature of, like you said, handheld games and working with third parties, second parties. They were putting out a lot of games, like you said, within the same time period that Riders was probably in development. You had, after Heroes, you had Sonic Battle, Sonic Advance 3, both Sonic Rush games at least one was out when Sonic Riders was out.
Rush 1 came out before Riders.
But just lots of stuff. Oh, and Shadow the Hedgehog in there as well, 2005. Yeah. And
that was our time period.
I do think like it might sound like a cop out, and I'm just saying it because I don't have the game development expertise to really say, but I mean, it feels like this first Sonic Riders just needed a little more polishing to be done, and I think a lot of the rough edges would have been sanded off. But yeah, even looking at this thing that I sure didn't know about, that there was a canceled Game Boy Advance port of just a Sonic hoverboard game that could have been Sonic Extreme or could have been a port of Riders. Man, there was just a lot going on. And I mean, not to end on a bummer, but like, you see how Sonic 06 ended up as kind of a mess when all of this was happening in the background. And Sega, Sonic Team especially, I don't think has ever been a huge company. Like, they do not have hundreds and thousands of employees like a bigger publisher. They have, I mean, didn't we find out not too long ago on Frontiers, like it was less than 100 people working on main Sonic games? Not to excuse some of the biggest problems that Sonic games have, but, just kind of boils down to like, hey, I think Sonic Riders is a lot of fun. Wish they could have ironed out some of the more frustrating parts.
But there was just too much going on.
Yeah, and unfortunately the sequels iterate and don't really refine the formula in this first game, but that'll be for another day.
Like end of the day, I think that Sonic, the first Riders game is something like genuinely special. I think it has a lot of really cool ideas and really interesting mechanics. All it really needed is, a few extra steps to make it more accessible, even if it was just an interactive tutorial and a difficulty slider. That alone, I think, would have made this game a lot better for a lot more people.
I agree. It needed those tweaks to be better, so Jake wouldn't be so miserable when I first played. Because, despite all of that, I do feel like Sonic Riders had a good idea of what it wanted to be. It had this great aesthetic in mind. It had a funny little story that it wanted to tell. And it was doing something unique that I think stands on its own and doesn't feel too odd. I think it worked. It all works together. All the ingredients work together. It's a good idea, and that's pretty impressive for during a time period when, let's face it, Sega were, like I mentioned, the spaghetti against the wall approach. Because honest to God, even if you look at this in isolation, you'd be like, "Well, this is another case of Sega just doing whatever with Sonic because they've no clue what they're doing with the franchise because they keep changing the direction every main game." Even if everyone was pulling from the holy text that was the Japanese interpretation of Sonic was all over the dang place, and this was another example. He is doing some extreme sports, and I could see people being cynical about that. So I don't know, but I don't know, man. It's good, and it does. I really struggled with it. It's not my favorite racing game I've got to play, but I feel like there is so much potential here that I can see why people love this one in a way that I don't feel about many of the games that came out during this time period.
What it comes down to for me is for me, subjectively, I just wish the game was better. I'm not going to fault the story because, like Chris has said plenty of times at this point, this was the spaghetti at the wall time where you could just make any story up you wanted and it would be in a Sonic game. So I'm not going to fault it on that. but just like I've said before, like I've harped on, the controls and the very unfriendly nature of the start of the game and how it just kind of continues on. And it's hard for me to say whether it deserves its reputation, positive or negative, because I really do feel so I just don't care anymore about this game.
That's fair.
Because like I said earlier, if there was another Saturday where we were all hanging out and planning and just wanted to play a game together, and we're just hey, we want to play Sonic Riders, and be like, heck yes, that was fun to play together. But other than that, I do not see myself playing this game again, just because single player, I didn't have a good time particularly. I didn't get as frustrated as I did with the Black Dragon and Sonic Superstars, but
on a scale of 1 to Dragon, what are we looking at here?
Scale of 1 to Dragon, yeah. And like Chris said, I definitely see the potential in this game, because I love that trick system, and if it just handled better, if it just controlled better, if the slipstreams. If there's an easier way of being able to get out of them other than using the tornado, which again, I've never actually seen footage of because even the tutorials never showed it because nobody uses it.
Even the guy that did the extra tutorial videos, here's how to do it. I never use it. Ever.
Exactly. There's a lot of cool concepts in this game. I just wish that they had more time to cook on it. And I wish that it could have, it makes for a potentially really good racing game. And I also, while we've been talking, I just couldn't help but think, and especially it's funny that you mentioned the possible prototype of the skateboarding game. I would love a Sonic skateboarding game. That'd be dope.
Sonic skateboard.
I know.
I think you're right though about the ease. That it could be easier, and I know that it feels like, oh, just make it easier, huh? That's how you guys want to play this. It's the easy version, but you should make it more accessible to newcomers, because that's why Mario Kart does so well. I mean, you've got to make the comparisons, even though it's technically a different kind of racing game, because games become more people will play a game if you can get used to how playing it easily and then learn to master it later, because you're the difference between low level newcomer casual play on Mario Kart and high level crazy drifting every 5 seconds Mario Kart play is massive, man. if they want to do like a more sort of sophisticated racing game, and goodness knows they're trying, just let that be something you work your way up to rather than dropping you in the deep end.
This is just making me more and more interested to see how you guys react when we get to Zero Gravity.
Yeah, I am curious now to look at those other two games because of this one, because I also remember those but could not tell you specific memories, period. And like I said before, I mean, I think Jake's experience is the overlooked Sonic fan who actually put their money where their mouth is and has gone back to play these old games that people talk so much about, and like, oh, either, like you said, there is no in between with this. It's either it's the greatest Sonic game, racing game ever, I hate all those ones with cars, blue, or like, oh no, it's unplayable dog shit. And yet how someone can kind of get thrown right into the middle and like, yeah, this is still a game from 2006, made in a very specific time period. And I guess to link that to, not comparing it directly to Mario Kart, but I mean, if it's supposed to be a mascot racing party game, unless I turned off all NPCs and adjusted the rules, I would not plop down with 3 friends with varying video game experience and just throw on a versus race like I could a Mario Kart. Like, absolutely no way. Like, even I was kind of doing that when we played over Parsec, and I'm like, I can't, I haven't learned to do these jumps yet. Hold on. Oh, I'm in last place. Oh, all the computer characters are hitting me. Well, this isn't fun.
Yeah.
But just as there needs to be more nuance to the discussion. And yeah, you're going to run across, like, not everybody is a time millionaire now. Like, part of why I started enjoying this game was I remembered how much fun I had with it as a kid, but I'm also remembering, like, yeah, of course I beat the game 100% 2 times in a row as a kid because I literally had unlimited free time after school.
That's how I'm feeling. I would have been like, if I had like this on my GameCube when I was younger, I might have taken the time to really, really get into it after a while and take advantage of all those like extra modes, because there's so much content in here, as we talked about. So I probably would have had a lot more fun with this if I was still a child. And I feel like, God bless everyone who loves this game. I feel like lots of people who still love it were a child when they played this. And I know that's not necessarily the case for Luke right here, but the people who evangelized this game probably were younger and had that time to really get into it. And I get that. Of course, I'm going to love things more when I'm younger and I can actually invest time and energy and love into things still, because I still have that in my heart.
And just so that we can say we said it, we did look at, like, there is a big fan scene for like remakes and mods for this game. There isn't really a big definitive like package of mods or like a full remake that's been finished or in a state that we could recommend. But if you want to go check that stuff out, I'm sure there's lots of quality of life improvements out there. We just didn't have the time or think it was enough to worth like putting in the show here, but hey, it's out there. Go check it out.
Also, all the music is good, because we didn't really we glossed over that a little bit.
Oh yeah, music is good.
Opening theme's really catchy. I remember it quite strongly.
I meant to say earlier that like the music in this game reminds me of when I would go to my friend's house across the street, and like he would have this kind of music on in the background while he would play like Mech Warrior on the PC, or I would watch him play Grand Theft Auto 3 or something like that. Like young Jake learning about Darude Sandstorm.
I thought you were going to say he was when he was skateboarding across the street because he was a cool kid. He was listening to this kind of music.
No, he was listening to Superman by Goldfinger.
Yeah, music is really good. I forgot to look up like the whole team behind it. I know, Runnelby, I think was heavily involved in the main themes of the game, which are very
I
catchy.
think the Babylon theme is much better in Zero Gravity than in this one personally, but it's fine.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. Yeah, see, I have no Zero Gravity. The only thing I remember from Zero Gravity is the theme song, which has another one of those that is, I think it's catchier than Seven Rings in Hand, but the lyrics are equally indecipherable.
Like, the game was largely composed by a lot of the regulars, Tomonori Sawada, Fumie Kumatani, Kenichi Tokoi. So, you know, a lot of familiar faces, but doing something very different in terms of the overall style of the soundtrack, and I think it really works for this game.
I'm glad that this one had a really catchy. This racing game had a really catchy, well thought out opening theme, and wasn't what we're getting for Crossroads. Sorry, everyone who's worked on the Crossroads theme. We'll get to it when we cover the game eventually. But here we go. Time to glow. Here we go. Fast like whoa. Here we go.
Honestly, I'm glad we did play this before Crossworlds, because I think that it's going to offer some really interesting perspective in terms of, you know, how the Extreme Gear plays in that versus in this one.
Yeah.
I know when Crossworlds comes out, people will be ruthless about how the Extreme Gear plays compared to this. I
can't say I'll blame them, because it's like every time classic Sonic shows up in a game, I'm like, these physics are better be 1-to-1 or I'm throwing a fit. Thank you for more or less introducing it to at least me and Jake, Luke. It was an interesting experience for us both.
It is a pleasure. I am always eager to share with friends. And again, I am really interested to see how you guys react when we get to Zero Gravity, because it's a game that very much feels like the inversion of this one in a lot of ways. And I will, you know, elaborate further when we actually get to it. But needless to say, I think it's going to make for an interesting episode when we get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. In the meantime, thank you for showing us what true speed is. But that's Sonic Riders. Thank you for joining us as we discussed that game. I hope we didn't upset you too much if it's your favorite one, and I hope we insulted it sufficiently if it isn't. You can follow us all across the internet, including various socials, at least while they don't require me to scan my actual face. Things like Blue Sky. And you can find us at Sonic F Series all across, but you can find me at Faulerro. That's Faulerro.
I love that jingle. You can find me on the socials as RockTheJake, and you can find me on twitch.tv as Mr. RockTheJake.
You can find me all around the internet at CyberLink420.
And you can find me on Blue Sky as JeremyBaker.actor or GameBuddy, sometimes with a 123 around the rest of the internet.
Special thanks, as always, to Amy Waters for the use of our theme song from the album Gotta Go Slow. Tremendous theme song. And more tremendous music we're talking about.
Yes.
But you can find more of her work on YouTube and Bandcamp. And if it's a Bandcamp Friday, do the thing that I always forget that you need to do, but do it anyway.
I like that new jingle.
Sorry, that's a terrible way of describing it. Just give them more money is what we're saying. That's essentially what it boils down to. And remember to do all those begging things like subscribing, reviewing, sharing, etc. if you feel like it. So get the word out there that four old dudes are talking about a game that you loved growing up and they can't believe it. Because we thrive on the rage we inspire by people having different opinions, apparently. But next time on the podcast, we are going back to school again, or at least we're hosting some sort of form of education as we bring in someone to tell them all about Sonic in one of our newbie education 101s. And boy, howdy, this is going to be an interesting one, I think.
It certainly is, I say, as if we haven't already recorded it and are putting out this episode first.
Yeah, because we know it was a good one.
Look, we wanted to make sure this was out before Crossworlds, but yeah, we've recorded this one already, and you're going to want to turn into that one. It was revelatory in a lot of ways.
I can't wait to hear it.
It was. It reminded me of how old we are. How out of touch we really are. But it's fine. Join us for that one, especially if you fall into the very specific fandoms that Luke and Jeremy do, because you'll know when we get there.
Calling it back to school is actually very appropriate.
Oh, that's right. I know. I get that now. I'm back. Anyway. But that was Sonic Riders. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the podcast once again as we go back to the GOAT era of Sonic the Hedgehog before we reach the dreaded corporate idea of Sonic that was ushered in the 2010s, where those dreaded American writers dare sully the franchise with their westernized words.
We
and
did
Amy
this
wasn't allowed
episode
to have a
already.
character anymore because, as we know, the main female character in a kids' media franchise should just be obsessed with the main male character in a said franchise, and that's good, actually. It's good that the number one girl... Anyway,
I'm sorry, I blacked out.
And etc.
Death to America, but only because of the English versions of Sonic the Hedgehog games, not in those other good reasons.
Yeah. Stupid podcast. But until next time, I've been Faulerro.
I'm RockTheJake.
I'm CyberLink.
And I'm GameBuddy. And remember, girls hate guys who rush them, Jet.
He's the fastest thing alive.
Interpret that how you wish. This has been The Hill is Always Greener, and we'll see you on the other side. Whoa!
Catch me if you can.
No thanks.
My dad said I could end this episode.